Serral's respect, he's going to really struggle in this series.
herO obviously played an incredibly good late game against Reina on Crimson Court, but I think it's important to mention that Reina made a very committed attack in that game with the Queens, with the Lurkers, and Reina obviously expected to deal way more damage there than he ended up doing. So yes, it was late game, but it was entering the late game from a very advantageous position. I don't know if we're necessarily going to find ourselves in a position against Yona in this series, but let's go ahead and dive on into it. In the top left side of Golden Aura, we are looking at the main base of our Korean Brothers player. This is herO. What a day it's been for him so far, Piggy. A 3-1 over Cure and a 3-0 over Reina.
Unfortunately, standing in his way is a man that has not looked shaky until he did struggle against Terran last night. Outside of that, though, he has been an unstoppable force. Let's see if he can get back in the win column again. In the bottom right side, representing Basilisk, it's Serral.
It is funny how StarCraft II works, because we do often say that you are as good as your last best of 5, and before the tournament I've heard things like Serral's an 80% favorite to win it all. And I mean, yes, herO is a big favorite to win it all, but I thought 80% against the entire field.
At a World Championship, that is a ridiculous.
Yeah,
you need to be beyond dominant greatest of all time. You need to take like 3 greatest of all time players and put them in one.
Yeah.
80%, that's crazy. I
mean, he is that, right? Serral really is him. He is that guy, but I still think 80% is a little bit ludicrous. And all of a sudden, after he lost the best of 5 against Clem, and it was a 3-0, of course, everyone looks at it like, what? Anybody can win this tournament. Serral's so beatable, but I do feel that yesterday, everyone has an off day, and Serral does not have many off days, but it did feel a little bit like he just couldn't quite get things going. A lot of clicks, a lot of attempts that just didn't go through. Serral was well rested, herO's had a long day. I expect a very strong Serral, like we have seen him throughout the entirety of 2024. And we haven't seen him play crazy amounts of games, but whenever we did get to see Serral, besides yesterday, he looked unstoppable as ever.
Serral's practice for this tournament did involve playing against Harstem, who was using a mod to give him full map vision, and Serral still absolutely crushed it, even when the Protoss could see where his air defenses were. So Serral is famous for being a rock that cannot take damage to the early Adept Oracle in the early game. And surprisingly, I really thought we might see herO be a bit more aggressive, but he is not chrono boosting the Adept, to be fair. It's Golden Aura, it's a big map, chronoing Adept's not very powerful here. But an interesting placement on that pylon with the Stargate. He's kind of hidden it in the back. It's very much a normal build, right, Roddy?
Yeah.
But he's hoping to kind of scare Serral and get an overreaction.
It's still more likely that hidden oracles will find damage than oracles that are just going to be revealed immediately. And if you are Serral, it's a little bit unsettling to enter a best of 5 like this and be like, what's happening exactly? Why don't I see what you're doing? And Serral's even checking for a proxy Stargate, which is not mega common in this matchup, but it's something that Protoss players used to do. It is a tiny bit silly because you're very likely to end up losing that pylon and then end up losing that Stargate, and that obviously makes you very vulnerable against Mutalisk later on, but it would often give you those oracles that show up 4 or 5 seconds quicker than they usually do, and that's when those spore crawlers are not done yet because all of the timings are razor tight. Serral is going to be a tiny bit confused, but I think he's actually going to be very happy when he sees it's a Void Ray. Now, Void Rays are annoying, right? Because they're going to kill the Overlord, they're going to keep the Zerg in the dark once more, but it is nice to know that it was just a Stargate at home and that it was just a Void Ray.
Not only that, but seeing it so early, yes, you lose an Overlord or two, Serral immediately boots up another Overlord, and more importantly, he'll delay his Spore Crawlers. If there's an Oracle, you need those Spore Crawlers potentially going down by now. Against a Void Ray, you can delay those even longer and focus on droning extra hard, only worrying about the second or third Stargate units to actually hit your workaround.
Yep, there is an Oracle on the way, and that's something we can see, and here Serral cannot see that yet. I'm sure he's thinking about it, but often if you see a Void Ray for us as a Zerg, the alarm bells do go off a little bit. It's like, why do you care that much about my Overlord potentially seeing something? You're doing something crazy? Is it 8 gateways and a Zealot charge coming online there? Is there a Forge with +1? We know that's not the case, but that's not something that Serral knows yet. I do believe those Zerglings got a glimpse of the Oracle. Would love to see if the Queens are already moving in the right direction. Overall, herO obviously playing a very strong macro-oriented opening, and it all is pretty standard in the end, but he has definitely kind of kept Serral in the dark and just made it a bit frustrating for Serral to really ease into this early mid-game.
The only scary thing here for herO is if Serral does play kind of greedy, then just denying information with the Void Ray and then just taking a third, going blink. You know, Serral could get ahead if he chooses to be greedy. herO's build order and his strategy here is kind of gambling on the fact that Serral's a very safe player. He's hoping that by denying the information and hiding his intentions, Serral is going to overreact, maybe build a few extra safety roaches. For now, though, looking at the worker counts, the tech timings, I feel like Serral's navigating this really well. He's getting a bit of safety with the spores and the queens. He's got the roach farm coming up, but he's also maintaining that 5 worker advantage.
Yep, you're spot on, and I do think when it's greed against greed, that does favor the Zerg a little bit. As a Protoss, you can only build 3 workers at a time. If as a Zerg, you're not supply blocked and you keep on hitting those injects, you're just going to see more than 3 drones in the production tab relatively often, and that's why Serral has been able to create a tiny worker lead for himself, while also spreading some creep. You could really see that herO was at least making a bit of an effort in dropping a revelation, picking up one of those active creep tumors, and he's got a pretty late second Oracle on the way as well. It's interesting how herO has played this. It almost feels that herO just wanted to skyrocket to a pretty strong economy, but from here on out, it's going to be traditional herO, and he's going to be very aggressive, and I really feel that he has only one intention with this Warp Prism and all those Blink Stalkers, and that is to straight up end the game immediately, Pick. I don't think we're going to see a random Robo Bay and a second Robo. I have the feeling that herO's moving out with the intention of trying to get Serral out of the game.
We might not even see +2 start up. +1 is going to be done so early for herO. He's going to go across to the Blink aggression. Serral, he sees only a few Stalkers. He has no idea that the gases haven't been taken on the 3rd, and going for a Spire and more drones is incredibly greedy.
Yep.
Serral does not realize what's happening.
This is not the play for Serral. I think if Serral would know what we know, he would cancel that Spire immediately, and he would maybe even get a Desperation Spine or 2, even if Spines are not fantastic, because at this point, the man from Finland needs more units. Now, we've got Queens here. We've got a couple Zerglings and Roaches in the mix. I'm very surprised to see that that Spire is still in production, as a couple of probes are falling to the other side of the map. I guess we didn't have a cannon or a shield battery in that 3rd base. Obviously, it wasn't too many Zerglings. That Spire is still on the way. Serral is incredibly confident that he's fine here, but this is a lot of Blink Stalkers, Biggie.
And they will blink back, keeping the damaged ones alive, letting their shields regenerate, getting value over time. herO is not making +2 attack. He is committing to nothing but Stalker production. More pylons, more Stalkers, and attacking forwards. The creep is holding him back, but you can see he's clearing that with the Oracles little by little, and Serral is trying desperately to buy time with these Roaches, Ravages, and Lings.
Yep, he did not get that active creep on the left side with the last revelation, so that's very frustrating for herO. There will still be some creep here, and using that creep as a bit of a launching pad is so awesome as a Zerg player. That allows the Roaches and the Ravages to get a few more hits off every now and then. 4 Mutalisk on the way. herO has built a few more probes, has taken extra gases. It did feel that herO really wanted to get more done there, but perhaps it's the creep that kept him at bay. Obviously, herO will never truly slow down. He's still going to give it a shot, but he is thinking about the next phase of this game, which may actually allow Serral to get some value out of that Spire in the end.
Indeed. I mean, this is crazy. Opting to go for Mutas with a massive Stalkers on your front doorstep goes to show Serral's confidence, but also his understanding of how committed herO was. As a couple of biles do land, Oracle does take out a Ravager. The Prism gets spotted by the Mutalisks. And that is, I mean, it's at least herO doesn't get hit in the worker line. You know, you'd rather lose a Warp Prism than a bunch of probes, but it does still shut down herO's map presence. Puts him in a bit of a corner now, where he has to build cannons, make a couple of Phoenix, and try desperately to secure a 4th base. Being stuck on 3 bases this deep against a now 80 drone Zerg, herO is behind on the economy, and he doesn't have any splash damage out just yet.
Yep, and Serral's building more drones. He's got +1 melee on the way. Bailing speed got fired up as well. Infestation Pit and Hydralisk Den. So Serral's also thinking about further stages of this game. I feel like herO is one of the very few Protoss players on this planet that is better against Mutalisk with Blink Stalkers than he is with Phoenixes. I feel like he doesn't really have a dedicated hotkey, as the Mutalisk do find the High Templars, and we're trying to gather up some energy. In the end, herO does save them though. Loses 6 workers, but he still got 61 left. Good save in the end on those High Templars, morphing them into Archons.
You got to be careful though as herO, because Serral is up on 84 workers. Hive, Lurker Den, double evolution chamber pumping, Baneling tech. The only missed opportunity there was herO's entire army moved to respond to the Mutas, leaving his 4th open. If Serral had decided to, he could have pounced on it, but Serral's playing extra safe right now. He's got his Roachling in the top right. If herO pushes, he's going to counterattack with that while teching up into Lurkers and Banelings.
It felt like it should have been so much harder for Serral to stabilize than what it ended up being. And Serral's just such a master in putting his units in a beautiful concave, always realizing when it's time to get in and out of range of those Stalkers. And even though Stalkers have the range advantage and they've got the micro advantage, much. It just felt like there wasn't a whole lot that herO could get done there. While I am certain that if herO finds himself in a similar spot against any other Zerg out there, it feels that these Stalkers just never die and they keep on getting closer and closer towards the Queens and hatcheries. Serral made it look easy, and it was really not supposed to be easy. And now we are entering a phase of the game that I don't think herO was really planning on entering, at least not without taking way better fights with those Stalkers early on.
hero's got a good worker count and a good supply count, but keep in mind it's not the greatest Protoss supply. Mostly Stalkers and Zealots at this point, with a few High Templar after Storm. Second Stargate and Fleet Beacon go down, the Mutalisk spot it immediately. And one has to wonder, if there was a squad of Stalkers at home, could we shut this down a little bit better? It feels like herO is going to need to split some Stalkers off to get those Mutas out of his base, because they're gathering way too much information and picking off probes.
Serral's got so many powerful upgrades on the way, with seismic spines, with adrenal glands, so it's going to take a little while before they are ready, but once they kick in, that Zerg army is going to be so much more terrifying. Now, he did get a lot of roaches stuck in the stasis trap, and the hero's doing the right thing. First, he's going to chase down a couple of these roaches that obviously cannot fight against this many Blink Stalkers, and they can always turn around and pick up those other roaches too. But I don't think that this would ever be a moment where hero's like, well, I just got a bunch of units for free, now I can attack. If you're investing in all the Stargates, the Fleet Beacon, air weapons, you're obviously going to take your time as well. hero's been pretty vocal big about practicing the late game. He said that's what he's been working on. That's what he felt has been holding him back in PvZ in the past. Well, he's going to go up in the late game against the best to ever do it when it comes to late game ZVP. And I'm incredibly curious to see how these trades will look.
I mean, we've loved his Tempest play so far in this tournament, but right now, a bunch of Stalkers getting jumped on by Roachling. Good trades here for Serral. And we do want to see more of that Tempest play. hero's carrier play, it's not really up there with like Stats and those sort of players who do that all the time. But I think having some Tempests, potentially a Mothership, and really picking at your opponent and using your Psy Storms over time, he's shown against Raynor. He looked really good there. Yes, it was Crimson Court. Very closed off map, very close map. He was already in a dominant position. The real scary thing is that Serral not only played in 2020, 2021, 2022, he dominated in that era. Remember, he had 3-hour-plus finals against Trap multiple times. Serral played so many games in extreme late game against Protoss. He's very practiced in this situation.
Not sure if we cancelled that hatchery there as we tapped away on the absolute last second, but obviously good army movement here by herO. Serral was focused on all those lurkers, battling a couple of zealots in the bottom left side. herO is going to try to take 2 bases at once, but the Queens are here to drop a bunch of transfuse on this hatch. A stasis trap goes down as well. Immortals would love to get in range to get a few more shots up, and in the end herO decides against it. Did not feel like that was the right place to be. One hell of a game here on Golden RR map, where traditionally it's very easy to stabilize on 4 bases, no matter the race you play. Going up to 5 or 6 bases, that's where things can get a bit more complicated, especially in this matchup, as we are also dropping the Nidus network on the side of Serral, so we could potentially get to see some Lurker play behind enemy lines.
Hey, the recall does get a bunch of units trapped there. One High Templar on the right. I think the Immortal and the High Templar on the left are actually able to get out, but you kind of need to wiggle them a little bit. Stalkers are going to dive! herO doesn't really want to keep these Stalkers alive too much longer. They're not the best late game unit, so he's happy to take a directly cost-inefficient trade to slow down Serral's mining. At the same time, hitting the bottom left, the movement is fantastic. This is only a small squad of Protoss units, but Lurkers are on standby defending that base.
Yeah, it's great to see that herO always has the 1-2 punch. And I feel like if you want to get something done against Serral in the late game, this is kind of how you have to play. 2 or even 3 attacks at once. Just looking at your army and looking at Serral's army and letting it come down to an all-out battle between spellcasters. More often than not, that will go in Serral's way. But if you can create a little bit of chaos, and we know that herO loves the chaos, he thrives in it, you can actually get stuff done. And he got that hatchery on the right side. He got this one. He got the triangle base, and he did a lot of damage to the bottom left side as well. And he's also doing a pretty damn good job in keeping creep at bay, even landing a couple of feedbacks here on these infestors. Yeah, herO really is playing solid. Serral's got a big bang though.
Serral is a very patient player in the late game. Nidus Worm just barely out of vision in that north. Here we go though, herO diving on top of the Queens, catching those, clearing this creep, cutting the gold base off from reinforcement. Great move for him. The problem is that top side Nidus is going to cause him problems on the counter. It pops out in the north, and you're going to see Zerglings and Roaches emerging in the north. But you know what? They're not Lurkers. And if you can take out this gold base, I think this is a trade that herO is happy to take. You don't want this game to get too stalematey. You want to keep the action going, keep the movement going. This is where this Protoss army will thrive, and he is doing fantastically well so far as herO.
Yep, he's not just getting the hatchery, he's also getting a whole bunch of drones. Now Serral still has a bit of a piggy bank, but going down all the way to 60 drones, I think it's a little bit too early to be down to 60 workers. herO warping in a few DTs here. And I don't think we have an overseer in the mix. Maybe there is one nearby, as there is behind, but it's going to try to drop another Nidus in the main. herO could obviously warp in a few more units there to take care of it. This Nexus lives for now, Pig. The Dark Templar saved the day. herO is going to warp in a Zealot and a Stalker. And will take care of the Nidus attempt in the main base. This is incredibly good play by herO. 15 minutes in. He has done a tremendous job in slowing Serral down, making it a little bit harder for Serral to become mega rich. Serral is rich, sure, but this is not. He's maxed out with 10k in the bank, and he's got his dream army and 3 upgrades across the board. No, this is Serral with a little bit of money and a decent army, which means that he's got more than a puncher's chance. But herO's doing a really good job in at least making life hard on Serral. And if I look at this army, this is a terrifying Protoss army.
It absolutely is, especially when you've got to move your siege units like the Lurkers around to defend. If they're not sieged up in the right position, they can get jumped on. And herO sees an opportunity, cracks the front line of Lurkers. Abduct's coming in the right side. One of the carriers and Void Rays will potentially get picked off, but Time Warp and Storm coming down as well and pushing right into that base. The Broodlords are in the back. They're going to retreat, shooting and moving as they go, but the hatchery and 9 workers go down.
Yep, 10 more Corruptors on the way. Serral obviously still has a decent amount of Corruptors. herO in the end says, I got my base, I'm going to go ahead and try to save this Nexus on the left side, and he will. Phoenix could go forward, maybe lift a healthy Lurker or so, and that is exactly what herO is going to do. Our Korean Protoss really is making all the correct calls here. And Serral, yes, once upon a time he had a bank. At this point he has spent all his money on more and more Corruptors, but the carriers are not the only thing that's scary about herO. He still has a bunch of well-upgraded Immortals on the ground. There are High Templars in the mix, and herO is going for it once more.
He's out trading Serral right now, busting another position. The Desperation Fungal comes down, but it can't keep him back. herO is diving forward. You can abduct the mothership as much as you want. Those storms will land on top of the Corruptors coming in with a vengeance. Having a storm his entire own army as herO trying to defend these Corruptors. And with the Archon shots, oh my lord, the Corruptors disappear.
And 2 carriers remain. Extra Stalkers are going to come in from the top side. I don't know if we have any Lurkers left on the side of Serral. It seems like that is not the case, so it is just 8 Broodlords, but Broodlords are not what they used to be. Serral really is in trouble here with only 53 drones, losing another hatchery. The economy is no longer there, and herO did save a couple of these carriers. I cannot believe 2 carriers survived against the insane amount of Corruptors that Serral had there. herO said let it rain as he stormed his own army into oblivion, but it's okay because these Protoss units have a lot of HP, and it's really starting to look like Golden Aura is going to go to herO, and that would only be the second offline map ever that herO has won against Serral.
1 year ago here in Riyadh, herO actually lost pretty much every game he went carriers versus Zerg. It was people were saying, oh, he's just not that good with carriers versus Zerg, his late game's not as well rounded. herO has reinvented himself as a player. He has worked so hard on practicing these late games, and I got to admit, I was not thinking it would be successful. I thought he would have to change his style back to the traditional aggressive, in-your-face, crazy all-in style. But what a well-balanced approach. The movement for herO is exceptional. Comes forward, okay, loses 1 Stalker, blinks away, but he's got that forward mobility. And look at this, swapping into Tempest behind it, because he's got such a scary ground army. herO has forced Serral into Lurkers and Broodlords, and the Tempest is just going to come in and start picking it away from afar, saying, you can't afford to rebuild your Corruptor Viper. You don't have an answer to Tempest right now.
In the last 15 months, these guys have played 10 games against each other at offline events. Not counting any of the online encounters, these two had 10 games offline. Score was 9-1 in favor of Serral. But it's really starting to look like herO is going to win as many games here as he has ever done against Serral in offline events. Because I just don't really see this going wrong anymore, Pig. These upgrades keep on getting better. herO is able to take bases. He's even getting his hands on the gold over here on the bottom left side. He's adding in a couple of Tempests as well, which is obviously going to be fantastic against those Broodlords, even against Lurkers. And it looks like he's even thinking of a cool recall, perhaps into the main base, or just poke in the bottom left side and then recall that entire Protoss army on top of that triangle base once more.
If we could see the units tab, I'd love to see how many Corruptors there are on the map. 11 right now against 5 carriers, 4 Tempests. That's not going to cut it. You've got an amazing anti-ground army as Serral. You've got Infestors to lock you in position, Blinding Clouds to stop your units from attacking, as well as Parasitic Bomb against the air, 8 Lurkers, 8 Broodlords. I mean, that's such a good army for surviving the ground push. The problem is the air units are there as well, and you just don't have the numbers to deal with that.
I would have liked to see herO continue to be a bit aggressive, though. I mean, obviously his army is big, and he's maxed out right now, and he's taking bases, and he's getting extra upgrades. All of that is nice, but if you got Serral on the ropes, I do feel as a Protoss you really need to continue pushing, because taking out 130 supply Serral is doable, but if Serral gets close to being maxed out once more, this could still become scary. herO knows that, and that's why he's here, dropping a storm, grabbing a couple of drones. The army looks
to the high ground as well. So the Stalker's actually, he's just trading them. He's just forcing messy trades. It's a good way to play. It makes Serral come out and fight him. Serral with a big fungal parasitic bomb ambush there. The Corruptors dive on top, but remember, there aren't that many Corruptors. The Broodlord and Fester, though, are letting their presence be known. The ground army getting hammered for herO.
Yep, another fungal does land. herO obviously still has plenty of units remaining here, and he did kill a lot of these Corruptors, and Corruptors are expensive. Serral is down to 47 drones, so it may not have been the prettiest fight in history, but I think given the state of this game, given the amount of bases that herO managed to get for himself, it was okay pick. That one Archon put in some work, the Storms once more truly connected, and Serral knows at this point it is impossible to really drag this one out a little bit longer. He's gonna go for it. He's got a couple of fungals, he's got a few Corruptors, a lot of Broodlords, and 2 Lurkers, but I think the aesthetic defenses is going to be almost impossible for this Zerg army.
I mean, Serral's trying to chase him down with one of the slowest compositions in the game. It's so odd to see a couple of Infestors and Broodlords chasing a Protoss army like this. Lurker's trying to break the cannons. Serral knows he's got no income. He has to get damage done now. But herO being too patient, forcing him into a position where he knew he was about to get overwhelmed. And herO showing depth to his play that many did not think he had. The ability to take down Serral with heavy pressure, smooth transition into the late game, and just kept Serral under pressure from start to finish.
Beautiful multitasking, fantastic army movement by herO, and just a really good idea of what he had to do. As we're going to take a look at some of the final moments here on Golden Arm. Obviously, at this point, the game was over. We had a couple of epic battles, especially the one where herO said, you know what, we're just going to storm everything I see. Protoss Zerg, it does not matter, because I am richer and I can afford these things. Already doing better than he did yesterday, and what a day this man is having. He woke up this morning, he got a 3-1 victory over Cura, and Cura is such a good player who really has had herO's number in the past, and that went on to show that herO's here, he's ready to battle. The 3-0 over Reina was nothing short of magnificent, and now a fantastic first game against Serral. It is Golden Aura, but still getting the job done, even on a Protoss favorite map, is so impressive.
Beautiful hybrid play. You know, it's not full air, it's a mix. It's just a bit of air to complicate things for the opponent, making it as difficult as possible for his opponent to get any control over the game. And now going onto the Zerg's map pick in the bottom left side of the map, representing Protoss and Weibo Gaming, it is herO.
In the top right side of Crimson Court, we are looking at the main base of the Finnish Phenom. I think we're gonna have to go back many, many years to figure out when is the last time this man lost 4 competitive games in a row. I honestly can't remember it for the life of me. Basilisk, Serral. You've got any idea, Pick?
Oh, it was a long time ago for sure. I mean, you can often get knocked out of tournaments without losing 4 maps in a row, and that is incredibly rare. I would not even hazard a guess, because it's definitely a while back. And losing it in a late game macro game. So there is a ZVP aura of invincibility that Serral's had for a long time, where like you'd be hard pressed to find the last time Serral even dropped a best of 5 to a Protoss player in a LAN tournament. I don't know if it's happened in the last few years. So he really has been unstoppable. And when it gets to the late game especially, that is such a confidence boost. Like, herO now knows, I don't have to be so afraid. I can go to the late game if need be. And he's going to be opening up with a Probe Scout this time around. So that's kind of safer for herO, right? Not being quite as greedy with the no Probe Scout that he likes to do. Does look like a close to walled off the base at the front. herO's wall's always famous for having the pylon in the wall. Seems like it's exposed, but it does allow him to re-wall with a very solid wall off if the opponent tries to go for an all-in. He can plonk a gateway down there and block you off. herO, of course, famous for leaving that door open. He likes to welcome Zerglings into his base so that he can trap them there. Sometimes backfires and ends up with a lot of probes going down. But remember, that's how herO's series started against Reina on this map. Lost 7 probes to 2 different Zergling run-bys. But you will get a bit of chaos in there. herO doesn't care. He loves it.
At Home Story Cup 22, Serral did lose a best of 5 against Zaun. And before that, we had to go all the way back to IEM Katowice, where he lost, obviously, in the semifinals back then against Zest. With the Adept Printer making its first ever appearance. Obviously, had to look that up, Piggy. I remember love StarCraft, but when it comes to Serral losing, yeah, I don't really remember it because it doesn't happen very often.
It's the only dark spot in your otherwise otherworldly memory for StarCraft matches.
Well, I mean, it's this difficult. The man does not do a whole lot of losing, and I'm pretty sure that he even ended up winning Home Story Cup 22, unless that's one of the ones that Reynor won. Because Reynor obviously did win 2 Home Story Cups, but I have the feeling that that was 23 and 24. If I recall that correctly. I don't know. It's a long time. They both won so many of these Home Story Cups. What we did see there is herO losing his scouting probe. And he seemed pretty bothered by it. Obviously, Zergling speed was not ready yet. Zerglings are not supposed to really kill a probe like that. Zerglings are a tiny, tiny bit quicker than probes off creep. But if your probe is healthy, it should always lift. Obviously, if it does get pinned to a corner, to a mineral patch, whatever, then the Zerglings can get a lot more hits off. herO definitely seemed to be a little bothered by it. Now let's talk about Crimson Court, Piggy, because we mentioned Crimson Court. You said it's the Zerg pick. Why is this such a good Zerg map?
Because you get that purple gas at your third, double efficiency, beautiful Roach push forwards from that Roach Queen, amazing on this map. You know what it's not amazing against, Roddy? 2 Stargate Tempest. That's right, double gas on the natural for herO. We're going to see the Tempest build that he started off the entire tournament with against Solar. It's a really tricky opening, and if Serral does commit to something like a Queen Walk with Ravagers and Lings, Tempest can actually counter that pretty darn hard. Of course, the other reason it's great is herO can just go across the map and try to snipe that middle hatchery. It's really weak if you get the Tempest plus 40 damage versus building upgrade. 80 damage a shot from the Tempest, that hatchery goes down really fast.
It's a really cool idea, but Serral normally is so damn good in sniffing this kind of stuff out. And even if Serral makes a few more queens with the idea of I am going to Queen Roach Walk, if Serral has the feeling this is happening, he can just play all out macro, he can just start running up and he can drop a Spire, and sure, maybe he's going to end up losing a queen or two, but it doesn't necessarily have to be game ending. Now, of course, if Serral does commit and he does not get the job done and herO stabilizes on 3 bases and kills that center hatch, yeah, then Serral is in serious trouble.
Indeed. Well, the Roach Horn goes down relatively early. Serral doesn't know what he's up against. It's so hard to scout if that third base is down or not, and that's part of what makes this build work so well on this map. Serral just doesn't have much information.
And what's very cool about this is that best of 5s are often about telling a story to your opponent, keeping them on edge, keeping them guessing. Don't forget that on Golden Aura, we also open up with the Void Ray to then just go into Oracles and blink and kind of look at each other. It's like, well, I mean, obviously it is a thing, but is it really that useful? Well, if you go back-to-back Void Ray, but in the second game suddenly it's double Stargate Tempest, I'm actually starting to think it's pretty damn brilliant. Serral, it does feel like he's very suspicious, right? I have the feeling that Serral does think there is something going on. He is going to fire up a couple of roaches, and now I wonder, are we going to see a Spire immediately, or will it be more roaches and more queens?
Definitely 9 roaches is not really the play against the Tempest. They're coming forward now. Third base is being spotted as being incredibly late. Those Tempests are going to start sieging this down, hitting those queens from afar. The queens can buy time, but they can't do much else. Spire goes down behind this, but that's a 71-second build time on the Spire, and then another 30 seconds to build Corruptors. herO's got about a minute and a half to work here. Let's see what damage he can get done.
I do love that creep to him on the high ground, because it's actually giving a little bit of creep to those queens here on the low ground. The queens obviously so much more mobile on creep than they are off creep. Spore Crawler is going to try to buy a little bit of time, and it will push the Void Ray back, but herO's already done a good job in taking out that Vespene Geyser, and that's a Vespene Geyser that Serral was absolutely relying on. You mentioned it, double gas herO. Are we paying attention to our Tempest? It seems that Serral was able to distract him successfully with a couple of Zerglings, and one Tempest does get sniped. Now more Zerglings getting on top of the third base of herO. This is problematic as the roaches are going to show up as well, and where herO is dealing some damage, Serral's dealing all the damage.
Beautiful play by Serral, opening that path up in the north by droning open the minerals rather than even breaking the rocks. A secret opening of the path and running by to take out herO's third base. A brilliant counter-attack for Serral, and that is going to find so much damage. herO
will be kicking himself, because if that Void Ray was at home, and this push is never supposed to be about that Void Ray, it would have been so much easier to keep that shield battery alive and not take that devastating damage from these roaches later on. A few Zerglings without upgrade shouldn't have been all that problematic. Now the Tempests are absolutely doing their thing, Pick. That is a lot of queens falling, but Serral is going to feel confident the moment Corruptors come out. Corruptors are going to have a field day against Tempest. The follow-up, though, is Void Rays with Flux Veins. I mean, I think this is the first time we see Flux Veins in this entire tournament. I love it. This best of 5 is bananas.
Corruptors are popping out. The Spore Crawler's there. He saves the hatchery. herO losing those 2 Tempest to Queens. A mistake that is not meant to be happening. Because of those Tempests going down, he doesn't get the 3rd hatchery snipe. If he sniped the 3rd hatchery, it'd be 2 base versus 2 base, and this would be fine. But you know what? The Void Rays come in and actually push back the Corruptors. Can he get the hatchery? This is a wild push. There's so few Queens supporting Rotterdam. There's not that many units, but the Void Ray overcharge is going to wear off, and when you don't have that, the Corruptors are quite good against them.
Especially with a tiny bit of Queen support, right? It doesn't really have to be all the Queens, as more Roaches are going to make their way through these minerals. This was such a brilliant, sneaky attack by Serral earlier on. And of course, the herO could have left the unit behind, could have protected the battery a bit better, but he just did not expect it. And I can't really blame the man. We don't see that very often, as herO now feels that it's his time to take the center base. This is risky. I mean, this is funny pick. These are not games we see very often. Corruptors are fantastic against Tempest. They can be very good against Void Rays, and that sounds silly, right? Because aren't Void Rays meant to counter Corruptors? Yes, but to some degree. Corruptors have a bit more micro potential than Void Rays. Void Rays can be silly, and especially if later on there are spellcasters in the mix. If Void Rays are not all that hot, but I don't think that herO is really gonna wait until there are spellcasters. herO just wants to probably continue battling with all these Skytoss units.
You know, you're thinking fungal parasitic bomb will ruin the Void Rays, but that's way further down the tech tree. The unit that can be surprisingly effective here for Serral is actually the Ravager. Because the Void Rays all tend to clump up a lot when they're fighting, if you have Ravagers and start just spreading corrosive bile across their line, it forces herO to spend a lot of time dodging those biles rather than standing and fighting. So I think Ravager Queen Corruptor should be able to defend a Void Ray timing attack, but it actually feels like Serral's the one pushing forward for a moment, getting a bit of middle control. He'd be wild to push up that ramp, though. He's only got 11 Roaches on the ground.
Yeah.
Similar work accounts to both sides. Who's going to tech up first? Like, do we see Storm charge for herO, or do we see Serral try and go high? For now, they're locked in this mid-game, and it feels like it's just an arms race to see who can get the bigger army.
This is going to be interesting. I like the Mothership here as well. Just anything that has a lot of HP and can help keep your Void Rays safe is good. This is risky, by the way, by Serral, because these Void Rays do have Flux Veins. And that means that if all the Voids get on top of the Corruptors will have a very hard time getting away. The Void Rays are going to be a bit quicker than they usually are. Seems like Serral is also a believer of the Ravager, but we are going to get an Infestation Pit as well.
Oh, Serral tried to bait out the Prismatic Alignment. herO did not take the bait. Gets himself a Corruptor and an Overseer for free. Great plays by herO. Plasma Shields is on the way for him as well as +1 air weapons. +1 air weapons about to kick in for Serral. Those biles coming in. Oh, herO! Not watching! He just lost almost all of his Void Rays to Corrosive Bile. It wasn't even aiming for the Void Rays. Serral just wanted to get the battery. In his wildest dreams, he did not expect to get 7 Void Ray kills right there.
That is unbelievable. Serral wanted the battery and he got the world instead, and now he is just able to get on top of this sports base. That is unbelievable. Those are some of the biggest corrosive balls that I have seen in competitive StarCraft in years. And at this point, Serral says, all right, I am not that afraid of a couple of Void Rays anymore. He's going to go for it with or without Prismatic Alignment. Serral does not care. He's going to push these Skytoss units back. That is unbelievable pick. I cannot believe what we have just seen. herO can't believe it either. This game was so close. It was so competitive, but a couple of Ravagers completely destroyed herO's army.
A stunning victory there for Serral, and a surprise victory. Even he will be absolutely shocked at what he just saw.
That was not the goal. The goal was to take out the battery and the battery overcharge.
I mean, I foreshadowed it, Kev. I said, you know, Biles pretty good versus it. That was not what I was expecting when I said that.
In your wildest dreams, you would have not seen that play out like that. At this point, obviously, the game was over. These Corruptors, these Ravagers, yeah, they already got the job done. herO in disbelief. There was no other way to put it. You saw it there as well. He was ready to activate Prismatic Alignment. Probably surprised by the attack there of Serral. He's like, you sure about this?
Yeah.
Well, I'm stunned.
I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't necessarily herO's game. It was still close, but it was
competitive.
It was like neck and neck, you know, and I think herO might have had a small advantage there, right? Yeah. Until those Void Rays went down. Honestly, great counterattack plays for Serral. I feel like herO kind of tricked him, and Serral wriggled his way out of a disaster and made it a competitive game, right? The Roachling sneaking around the top because he had to mine those minerals from very far away, got around the map. Hey, this was a really good play, but oh my lord, that hurts to watch.
Yes.
That's a mistake for the ages. That might be one of the bigger ones he's ever made. I mean, that's kind of the solar nuke, you know, from a couple of years ago. You don't see that every day.
No. I mean, a couple Void Rays, sure, a lot of damage on carriers and Tempest, yeah, we've seen that. Or if units are fungled, we are aware of it. Like this early on, when there are no spellcasters yet. That is unbelievable. That's a very, very difficult one to swallow, but let's see if this man can keep it together. He is playing fantastic StarCraft today, and he was looking good in that second game as well, even after losing the third base early on against Roaches and Zerglings. Loading into Alcyone in the top right side, it is herO.
Got to shake that one off and move into the next game. He is one of the most resilient players, able to handle tilt very well, but so is his opponent. He often looks almost like he's angry at himself. We've watched him in his stream kind of get angry at any small mistake, but play better. Every single time it gets intense, he levels up. Let's see if he can keep on doing it here. In the bottom left side of Alcyone, it is Basilisk Serral.
And what a way for Serral to snap the streak that he was on, losing 3 games against Clem, losing the first one against herO, and it started to look dicey even after killing that third base. I'm with you, the Void Rays had +1, they had Prismatic Alignment, it was triple Stargate. herO was about to get his hands on that rich Vespian Geyser too, and it's not like Serral already had Infestors and Vipers, no. Without those units, that is a terrifying Protoss army to deal with. I'm always stunned by it feels that herO's not that rich, yet he's got so many units to work with over and over again. You think back of the Ghost River game against Raynor earlier today, right? And it's like, where does he get it from? Where does he find the resources to get the double robe and the robe away in that game, or in this game to get such a monstrous air army out? And that was, I mean, that's just an unbelievable moment on Crimson Court. That is probably the most stunning moment of the tournament so far.
Definitely the most shocking. That is 100% certain. herO has reworked his openings over the last few months to really become so solid at getting his early worker count up, and I really do feel like he cuts corners very well, often skipping a probe scout here or there to get a little bit of extra minerals in the early game like he did back in game 1. Other times just kind of saying, you know what, let's allocate all of our chrono boost towards the Nexus. This time though, chrono boosting the Adept, a change of pace here for herO. Drops the Stargate behind it, usually 1 chrono on the Adept, often leads into a second as well. Serral sneaking 1 Zergling out to potentially scout and 1 Zergling chasing the probe.
I'm still digesting 6 Void Rays dying to Ravages, especially after you just said, like, Ravages are great. I was like, yeah, you know, with spellcasters and whatnot, and thought there was a chance we could get to see some of that eventually. Oh, unbelievable stuff in the second game of this second to last best of 5 of the day. The winner, of course, of this series is going to move on to play against Maru in that all-important final match of the early stages of this tournament. The winner goes directly into the top 4. The loser doesn't quite have to start all the way in the beginning, but in knockout bracket round 2. What an important series that is going to be. But obviously, for these two, they first have to win this one before they can even start thinking about Maru. Here on Alcyone so far, clean start for Serral, not really taking any damage, and herO continues to open up with the Void Ray.
Indeed, the Void Ray denying the information so important against Serral. You got to put him in the dark. It's part of his mind games in this series. I'm going to deny your information, and I'm going to go in drastically different directions once I get rid of that Overlord. He's already shown kind of straight into macro, the blink pressure in game 1, the second game straight into the cheeky Tempest build, and I think this just makes it difficult for Serral to know for sure what's happening. Third Nexus goes down though. Zergling does spot it immediately, so he knows it's not the Tempest build from the last game, that's for sure.
Don't think he was really worried about that one either. Not on the Alcyone, right? This is not the map for it. There were some other maps in the past where people were experimenting for it with a little while. I'm thinking
Post-Youth, it's very popular on in this pool as well.
Yeah, but that's also a very unique one. Like, not exactly a standard map. Alcyone, all things considered, despite that mineral wall and a lot of rocks and a weird Zelnaga white stone in the center, is a relatively standard map. It's large as well, just not the kind of game where you would normally go double Stargate Tempest.
Queen's going to intercept the Void Ray, keep it back. Notice this does push Serral's vision into a corner because he has to pull the Overlords back for safety. So the kind of side effects of the Void Ray, it's not always the direct damage, it's the I need to pull my vision into a tighter circle. And that potentially opens up opportunities for Oracles and Adepts to pick things off.
There is a fleet beacon and there is a second Stargate. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be Tempest. Could also be Phoenix. herO in the past sometimes can get a little carried away, and where he goes double Stargate Phoenix. It is just so hard because the moment you fire up +1 air weapons, Serral is always in your face. He's going to see that cybernetics core spinning. But if you want to play Phoenix, you kind of need that quick upgrade. Now the cyber Oracle is a bit...
carrier into Blink, actually, like
Yeah.
classics old school build from like a year ago.
Goblin recently did it as well on this map against Raynor.
Yes, exactly. And it's quite an awkward build to respond to. I think if your opponent expects it, it's not as powerful. But once again, you know, it depends what you can get done early. Oracle denies the 4th base. Nice start there. And early 4th base was, gives them a lot of explosive potential with the droning.
The mind games are awesome of herO, right? Because he's opening up with the Void Rays, making it difficult for Serral to scout, and the follow-ups continue to be different. First game, Blink Stalker. Second game, Tempest. A third game, it is indeed going to be some carriers here early on. Now with carriers, even if you want to go only like 4 carriers into Blink, I still think it's so nice to get air upgrades, right? Especially carriers, because they attack so many times. You have 8 interceptors, they all attack twice, so air upgrades are massive. But you don't want to give it away. The moment that you start researching air weapons, Serral will see it, Serral will start thinking about carriers, and then your build is less likely to succeed. So we're going to have to do it without any air upgrades. I'm very curious to see what the follow-up is going to be. There is even a world where he tries to maybe surprise Serral with a couple of Zealots with +1, because if Serral plays a very greedy game and he's just Zergling heavy and there are no safety roaches, Zealots with +1 are fantastic.
Serral was planning to go for a Roach Hydra timing, but the Oracle scouts the Hydra Den and immediately an Infestation Pit goes down. So he's kind of ditched the all-in plan, and he said, no worries, I'll just go Hive and play Lurkers here. But of course, we'll see what happens when he finds out about the carriers. The Twilight Council's finished. We're going to find out if it's Blink or Charge momentarily as the 3rd and 4th carrier start up for herO. Let's see what that Twilight Council does.
That's pretty difficult to deal with, by the way. This many Zerglings, when we don't have a lot of units, and the FF moves out of position, but Serral changes his mind. Serral's like, you know what, I want to go for the Stalkers instead. Then he sees the Voider and he says, no, none of that. He's going to go quick Hive, but this was a big scout for Serral. I think Serral now has a very good read on the game. It is going to be Zealot Charge, by the way, so revealing a few Stalkers is incredibly smart. But Serral will continue to check, and I don't think that Serral is just going to be fooled and is not going to have any units ready to deal with a few Zealots with Charge.
Hydra's already building. They aren't the best unit long-term versus carriers, but they're perfect for now, right? A small number of carriers, Hydras will defeat those, and they can be useful against the ground as well.
Spotting all those gateways obviously is awesome stuff for Serral, who was in 66 drones there for a while, and is still running around with a lot of Zerglings, and it's difficult to deal with this many Zerglings when your Zealots are still not very quick. 14 drones on the production tab. herO, for the first time in this series, I want to say looking a little bit lost, right? Things have just not totally gone according to plan. Those Zerglings scared him. They created a bit of chaos, a little bit of panic, and at this point the carriers are very indecisive. Do we want to go? Do we not want to go? This is a very awkward fight of a couple of Hydras without any upgrades in the center of the map, but they will manage to pick up some interceptors, and the Zerglings meanwhile getting a cancel on the 4th base. It's really starting to feel that Serral is getting more and more control here of Game 3 on Elsyone.
Taking the 4th base away is huge, right? If you got the 4th up as herO, you can get the gases, you can add the Storm, the air upgrades which are now coming in. You can really just spread out that tech and that control, but now Serral doesn't have to worry about that. He's got 88 workers. He's got double upgrades. Ultra Cavern goes down. We've already got Infestors for the Microbial Shroud and the Fungal Catch, and I always feel like Ultras, don't get me wrong, if there's 6-7 Immortals on the ground, they're not the best, but when there's only 1 or 2 Immortals, especially if there's like Blinding Clouds or anything landing, they're so good at clearing the High Templar out. If you get rid of the High Templar, suddenly it's much harder for Protoss to defend those carriers.
Big pick-off there on the Oracle, and that obviously has a lot to do with the map control that Serral has created for himself. A bit of creep in the center, the Zelnaga Watchtower. He saw that Oracle go to the left, was hoping it would return, and it did. These are still some scary moments because Serral is spending so much money in a lot of late-game stuff, and if herO is spending it on units, all of a sudden that Protoss army does become a little bit powerful and intimidating. That's a lot of carriers. They don't have upgrades, but that's still going to be a lot of interceptors to deal with, and there are a few High Templars in the mix with Storm.
10 Queens, though. 10 Queens plus Hydras. Oh, Storm's landing on the Hydras. Nice Ice Storm to start things off. A good pullback to make sure those interceptors don't get blitzed down. Microbial Shroud will wear off, and you can, of course, re-engage. The problem here is the creep. I mean, we don't have an observer out. The Oracle went down, as you pointed out, and Serral sees everything herO's army is up to.
Yep, that's so frustrating. Now, there is an observer somewhere on the map, and I guess it's going to make its way over to this army, but obviously it does not have the upgrade yet of the Robo Bay. We don't have a Robo Bay. Few Zerglings do get stuck, so that observer is awfully slow. Serral is going to try to buy a little bit of time for himself with some counterattacks. He's going to get on top of all 3 cannons, get at least 2 of them by the looks of it. Nope, he's actually not going to be able to finish the first one off. Battery overcharge is still very good. herO does finish up. I don't think we have Neuroparasite yet, but Serral does fire it up immediately. So we could potentially see some big fungals, big Neuroparasites later on. Ultras, however, are on the way, and Kindness Plating is halfway done. And carriers have such a difficult time dealing with Ultras with Kindness Plating.
herO's slowly adding upgrades, but he's way behind from normal, so the Zealots are going to get minced by things like the Ultralisks. And herO, he's got to realize that Serral's so good with the Ultras, he'll even pull them back to choke points to fight the Zealots one or two at a time. The Ultra's so good in those engagements. Plasma Shield's coming in. herO's still only got +1 air weapons. He's got to keep adding these upgrades. Like, I love his composition. I like even a few Disruptors getting mixed in. Really good against Microbial Shroud Queen Hydra. As long as you stop at 2 Disruptors and get the attack and armor upgrades, those are the big things that are missing in herO's production tab as he starts a 5th base.
It's going to be very difficult to keep them safe against all the Zerglings with Adrenal Glands, and obviously Fungals, Ultras that are about to finally get some good upgrades. Kindness is done. Serral is going to let go of this base, so herO will find the first success in a couple of minutes. Taking out this left side base is pretty awesome for him. Serral is going to try to take control of the Zelnaga Watchtower. I mean, even after a bad start, I do, or at least like a hectic or a middle game that I don't think that herO was really looking for, it is starting to look a little bit better as the Disruptors will get revealed. Serral is going to try his best to maybe find a free Disruptor. Can the Warp Prism save it? No pickup there. Zerglings now stream into the main base in the natural. This is creating a little more chaos than it was supposed to do big, as herO is done as well. Obviously finished up a while ago. And this is just so frustrating because we don't have Observer Speed, we don't have Oracles. It's unlikely that herO is going to have detection in all the right places.
herO should have a cannon in each mineral line. He's adding them now. A bit more distraction than he would have liked to deal with. +2 air attack finally on the way for him as well as the 2nd and 3rd robo. He needs those. That's so many Immortals. So many Ultralists, I should say. He needs a lot of Immortals. He's got like one. One Immortal is not enough. And as you said, the Disruptors, how are you going to protect them from these Ultras? It's going to be so hard. The Infestor Viper's ready for Serral. Serral's still got great creep spread. herO, you've got to be careful. Serral's shown he's fantastic at ambushing these armies.
And Serral's got all the spellcasters as well. 4 Infestors, 2 Vipers, so we could see a nice combo of Parasitic Bomb and Fungal. Serral looks at his army and he's willing to go for it. Splits against the Disruptors. Zealots don't stand a chance. A Fungal will connect. That's obviously a choke point that should normally work in favor of the Protoss. As a couple of feedbacks will go down. A few more storms will land, but I just don't see a lot of Zerg units dying. It is going to be really difficult. herO needs a different army. Like you said, we need more Immortals, more Archons, and I think a few more High Templars in the mix as well, right? We need Storm for days.
Oh, he's building a Colossus Rotterdam, though. I'm with you 100%. I think you're describing all the units we need. I'm hoping that Colossus is a misclick, because that ain't going to get much done against this Ultralisk army.
No, probably misclick. I don't think we have Extended Turbulence either. Could be useful against Zerglings, but yeah, it's so hard to keep that Colossus alive against this many Ultras, especially if the Ultras get some transfuse as well from the Queens that are making some serious progress to the other side of the map. Serral feels like he needs a few Corruptors. He's going to fire up 9 of them in total. Is the richer player, has had more bases for the vast majority of this game, and is obviously looking at a slightly more powerful army. But herO is starting to work with the kind of army that we can say, well, a Protoss is absolutely allowed to dream. A few great storms, and anything is possible, as we see a couple of Lings and Hydras getting on top of cannons. Perhaps Serral just willing to trade out a little more of that early mid-game supply into stronger late-game units.
We've got to keep checking on the units lost tab throughout this game, because it feels like Serral can't really deny herO's bases, but he can trade very well defensively. He has this
what a moment.
units. Oh, that's going to do well, forcing a recall, taking down a lot of the cannons and the batteries. The Ultraling does pull back there. There's only a few carries in Tempest, actually. To be fair, the Ultra's probably could have continued and taken out a lot of those buildings and probes. But Serral's playing cautiously. He's splitting up a few Ultras and Lings for the counterattacks. He's adding the Corruptors, the second Spire for the air upgrades. And here we go. herO's still posturing, looking for engagements. He's now got +2 air opens and +2 ground. Doesn't have +3 on the way. He's looking for the big fight. Disruptors up front. High Templar there as well. The Colossus in the mix. It is a big mix of units, but something that 8 Ultralisks could chow down on very effectively.
Stasis Trap there is very cool, actually, because I do think that herO was already worried about a potential flank. A couple of Stasis Traps can obviously make a lot of the army of Serral very inefficient. Serral knows that. I don't know if he actually saw that with his Overseer. Did a good job there, I think, in avoiding the Nova. Seemed like they connected with a spellcaster, but Serral's rich enough that he can lose a unit or two. At this point, it obviously is all about that upcoming engagement. I have the feeling the fight is going to be very messy, very scrappy. We'll see Storms, we'll see Fungals, maybe even some Neurals, as there is a Fungal pick.
Oh, he's going to initiate! Serral going for it. Ultra's coming in from all sides. Another Fungal Parasitic Bomb right in the middle. The air army is getting slaughtered. Serral diving on top. The Ultras clearing the ground. The Corruptors and the Spells clearing the air. That is an absolute massacre.
Serral is a very patient man, but he felt that was the moment to go for it, and it's safe to say that he was right. So many Ultras remain, Corruptors remain, lands a Fungal on all the Observers there. That's obviously a lot of gas is going to go down, and the only thing that herO was really able to save there is a couple of High Templars. herO was very clumped up, but it wasn't just that, right? It's just the composition of Serral was better. I think Serral was always going to take an okay fight there, but he is not just a regular Zerg. He is Serral, so an okay fight turns into a fantastic fight, and we can really see that in the unit's lost resource step. Before that fight, it was relatively even. Right now, herO has lost over 6,000 more resources than Serral. And sure, he's got 4 Robos and he's building 4 Immortals at a time. 64 army supply against 133 does not look very promising for the man from Korea.
I mean, what a swing. And we said it, you called it out, you said he needed more Immortals. herO didn't have the supply to get more Immortals, and he just could not handle the Ultralisks in that fight. If you can't handle the Ultralisks, the Corruptors and the Spellcasters will pick you apart. The Fungal Parasitic Bomb combo was absolutely deadly. I love that herO is still sniping hatcheries, by the way. He's the only man at 1/3 of the army supply of his opponents who will still be sniping bases and then getting out of there with recalls. But of course, Serral's answering in kind, not only getting the base, but 16 probes and a stack of production as well. Serral is miles ahead, and he's looking to close this game out in the next few minutes. Of course, most players would just shove across the map, but Serral, patient as ever.
Yep.
Gonna go for Ling run buys and just rebuild his bases, add extra upgrades, and look for the perfect fight.
That is a lot of item plus, by the way. herO also realizing that he's going to get a few more Archons. And just to go back to that previous fight, it may seem silly that we talk so much about the ground armies, like, but weren't the carriers just useless? Didn't the carriers just die? But if herO has a stronger ground army, it's not just the Immortals that keep the Ultras at bay, that protect your spellcasters, that will also allow Archons to stand there. And the moment that Archons stand there, Corruptors have a much more difficult time. This is very cute. herO apparently lost all of his Observers. He's trying to figure out where is this burrowed Zergling. So he's attacking his own Archon, hoping that the splash damage would kill that unit he cannot see. But yeah, TLDR, it's about the Archons on the ground that make it difficult for Corruptors to get on top of carriers.
Yeah, without those Archons being protected by the Immortals, all those pieces together, you end up with too many Stalkers, Zealots, kind of random units, Tempest, that just kind of stand around in the fight, don't do much. Finally, the Nexus getting rebuilt. herO's ability to remax in these games is truly impressive. But of course, he needs to find the correct engagement. Baneling's being added in for Serral. And I think that's a perfect way of busting open bases. I think for Serral here, you're not going to shove and try to attack the army. You're just going to split your own army up, take out the top left base with Mass Baneling Ultra while poking the right side with Broodlords. That's a situation that herO doesn't really have an answer for.
Yep, we do obviously still have Storm. It's been a little while since we saw Storm being utilized, but Storm is still a thing. I would kind of like to see Serral go for it. Maybe he wants to wait for +3 melee, maybe he wants to wait for Baneling speed, but I think at one point you can just go for it. It doesn't have to be here, he could have gone elsewhere, but the army is not here. So Serral says, this is absolutely the moment, we are going to go for it. A single pilot was powering all those cannons and batteries. The first one died, the second one gets taken out as well, and now these probes are kind of left for dead. herO's going to try to save as many as he can. Zergling still getting on top of the Nexus. I would have loved to see the Zerglings continue there, but obviously Serral is having a good old time here. He's making all the correct calls. There are a couple of Stalkers being a bit annoying in the center, in the bottom right side, but Stalkers are not exactly known for their base trading ability.
No, their damage output isn't enough. They're quite expensive as well, so they will get taken out. And Serral happy to just keep chipping away at the economy, little by little, taking those positive trades. It's a much better army for herO this time around, but he's got no insurance. He's down still, 40 army supply. Oh, nice feedbacks on a few of those Infestors, pops them. And he's going to be able to move up to the left side to defend the next Ultra Ling, but the Ultra Ling will get the Nexus snipe, and he snipes the base on the right as well. Serral distracts in the middle with the main army, hits the flanks of the Ling Ultra. It's a tough spot to be in for herO.
Beautiful multitasking there by Serral. Of course, he is ahead, so it's a little bit easier to make great plays when you are very far ahead. Sometimes I do get worried, right, where maybe we should have just ended the game, but we had the chance to end it. Now serO's still making a lot of the correct calls, but you look at this Protoss army and you're kind of wondering, how did herO even get there after that previous fight? Now serO still has a very good entry with that army, and that is a magical fungal from downtown, as herO does drop a time warp to buy a little bit of time, but the Zerg army is here and is going to try to get on top of all these Protoss units.
Amazing focus fires on the infestors. That was an amazing withdrawal. Once you got hit by the first fungal, most players lose their whole army, but herO not only pulled back, he used a series of feedbacks and Tempest focus fire to take out those infestors coming in the left flank, so he only ended up getting fungal twice. He's still in the front lines. Down 30 army supply, but in his opponent's face. herO, this is his famous move. He's like a honey badger. I swear, he'll go pick a fight with a lion, even though it is much bigger than him. And that's serO's army right now. It's bigger, it's scarier, and yet herO's killing bases.
I almost feel like serO's just taking his time, figuring out what do I exactly need. Trying to take another glimpse at that army of heroes, like, okay, that's a lot of Tempest, decent amount of Stalkers as well. Let's just go for a few more Corruptors, a few more Broodlords, and a couple of safety Infestors, just in case you manage to feedback my initial Infestors, as obviously the Fungals are important. And we haven't seen any Neuroparasite yet, but I'd kind of love to see a Neuro on the Mothership. Drop a Time Warp on the Protoss army.
I mean, that's the way. If it was Estrella, he'd neural the other guy's mothership if he was a Zerg player, and then he'd recall onto their face.
Oh, that would be a play. Oh, that's a couple of big Fungals, by the way, on all the High Templars. A lot of these High Templars are exposed. Most of them, if not all but one, do end up falling. And herO cannot replace these units anymore. High Templars cost so much gas, 150 for each and every single one of them, and herO does not have that gas income anymore.
I love the way hero's getting map control, but of course the lack of a fifth base, just over time, it's not just cool, let's deny a base or two, which again, another base snipe, this is excellent. But it's excellent in the context of you need excellent times 10 because you don't have a fifth base. If he's got a fifth base mining, taking a sixth, herO making these trades, you're like, hey, you're dragging your way back into this game. But right now, he needs to both secure the economy and keep up this base denial, something which is so difficult. I mean, that Broodlord count is fearsome. The unit count in general is getting to this stage where it's like 17 Broodlords. If they get on top of the ground army, they're going to obliterate it. On the other hand, the Tempest can technically pick them off from afar, but herO needs to keep Serral at arm's length. He needs to use Oracle Revelations, Storms, and feedbacks to kind of keep Serral back. In a pitched battle, I think Serral's going to roll over the top.
+3 flyer attacks on the way as well. Obviously, Serral has been in control of this game ever since that big fight on the left side, but I really got to give it to herO for still making some plays happen, even getting a hatchery on the left side, getting one in the bottom right side. herO's the only Protoss in the world that can snipe bases with Blink Stalkers against +3 melee Zerglings with Adrenal Glands. Like, if that's out on the map, it should be impossible for a couple of Stalkers to sneak somewhere and actually get the job done. herO did manage to slow the economy down a little bit, but Serral already has everything that his Zerg heart desires. He's maxed out, he's got his dream army, he's got all those upgrades. Look at the bottom side of our screen. +3 melee, missile, he's got everything, Piggy. The only one we're waiting for is +3 flyer attacks, but I think with or without it, this Zerg army, it just seems unstoppable.
Yeah, you attach this Zerg army to a lot of Zergs, you think, you know what? You could definitely wear this down. You can find a way to make mistakes and get the Zerg out of sorts. Then you remember it's Serral, a man who sat through 3-hour, long series and just calmly waited for his moment so many times over the years. And it's funny because I used to always think before he started streaming his own gameplay that Serral was completely calm in those games. And then you watch him stream it and he's like, oh, I hate this. This is so painful. This is so difficult. And you're like, oh, he's as frustrated as anyone else would be. But he somehow gets better when he's a bit angry. When he's like, he gets more focused as he gets in these hard late game positions. And he's just more patient than anyone else under pressure.
No cancel on that Nexus, and that's obviously not gonna help herO when he wants to get a little more army supply out there. At this point, he's down 44 army supply as another big fungal will connect. We do have the Mothership activating its spells. Time Warp goes down. We're gonna cloak that army, but the Mothership will get abducted. Apparently will not get killed, so for once the Mothership survives an abduct. I mean, Serral's got way more Broodlords than he's got Corruptors, right? So it's a little bit difficult, as the Tempest are absolutely doing their thing.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. He just got quite a few Broodlords and Corruptors there. I mean, it's surprising. There's still a lot left over, but I don't know. I'm just impressed. I feel like this army's so fragile for herO, but he's hanging in there, mate.
He is hanging in there, but it's also because Serral does not seem to be in a rush to end things. I do think that opportunity was there once or twice, but Serral obviously aware of how important this match is, does not want to see himself end up in that knockout bracket tomorrow, so he's going to play it very, very safe. And perhaps try to frustrate his opponent a little bit as well, right? Like, we all know that feeling where you kind of feel like you're dead in a game, but if the match is incredibly important, you don't want to leave early, but it does start feeling more and more frustrating where you're like, just get me out of here. herO has too many units left over to leave, but I do think he knows that he's in an almost unwinnable position.
You know, I think that's a really good point about throw your opponent off, drain their energy. I do think herO is untiltable, though. I kind of feel like herO is just so unshakable because he plays such a high-risk, high-reward style. I think there's very few players you can kind of get out of sorts and pull out of the moment, you know, the way herO just stays focused no matter what is happening in the game. And he's working. He knows he's working with a terrible toolset right now. If he wins this game, he's like, look, dude, I'm in a really bad spot. If I can even make this close, that in itself is partially a victory.
The bank of Serral is just becoming larger and larger, as it does seem that the mothership successfully got picked off this time, and Abduct did manage to go off, and Corruptus finished the job. herO is trying to protect his cybernetics core that is researching +2 air armor by the looks of it. I mean, he's got 101 army supply, but it just doesn't really stand a chance against all these Zerg units. And let's not ignore the bank of Serral. Serral sitting on 6.2k minerals, 3000 gas. Serral could take the worst fight imaginable, will always kill a lot of Protoss units, and he can rebuild everything all day, every day. herO's gonna have such a difficult time replacing literally anything.
Nice Fungals catching a few of those high-value units. Gold base. It's so exposed on this map. That gold base can be a bit of a trap. A couple of good focus fires from the Tempest, but oh, Neural Parasite on the Archon. Fungal does whiff. The Archon does get out of range there. The Infestor's looking for the Fungal. Oh, you can't get caught flat-footed. Watch out! Here come the Fungals. The Neural on the Archon as well. Gonna get some big hits off Microbo Shroud guarding the ground army. More Fungals as the Broodlord start to land hits. And that is a massive amount of spells all over the Protoss force. herO gets caught out as Serral, he's waiting for this moment for so long, and he gets it done.
Serral knows the pain of a bunch of Corruptors on top of an Archon, and now he's starting to relive the glory days of being a Protoss, where he's like, you know what? Archons underneath the Tempest, that seems really fun. herO down to 24 supply. What a neural that was. And of course, Serral had a bigger army and a more powerful army, but that still must have sparked a little bit of joy in the heart of Serral, seeing all that splash damage on those Protoss units as we are remaxing on 15 Ultras big. 15 Ultras against the herO with 10 probes. That will finally do it on Elcyone. Serral takes the 2-1 lead. It did really feel that the game-deciding fight was that fight on the left side. Serral didn't just win that fight, he completely crushed the Protoss army. The units lost resource taps, only 6,000 resources in his favor. That was massive.
It's not the ideal army, the Ultralisk-based army, but it's one that's hard to solve. You need to be very, very careful and pick those fights just right. And of course, if you don't quite have the thing, it can be rough.
We are going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back.
Ready, set, go.
Welcome back to the second to last best of 5 of the day, where we are taking a look at herO, the man who's down 1 and 2 against Serral. One hell of a series so far, pick. Game 3 obviously went a little bit longer than perhaps it should have gone. And that Void Ray though, the Void Rays on Game 2, I think we'll be talking about those Void Rays for a very, very long time. Let's see if herO can do what Serral did earlier in this series, and that is recollect himself.
Indeed. He's played some fantastic games so far. And that map too, of course, with the Void Ray bile, going to be something that could be haunting a lesser player, but something which herO is used to resetting after these moments. He's had so many weird comebacks, both against him as well as for himself. Like, he's a high variance player, so a lot of players out there are more safe. They make mistakes like this, and I think they really get tilted. They get thrown out of their element. They get frustrated. For herO, this happens so many times every day on the ladder in all of his games. Like, he makes these mistakes you don't usually see at this level, but he also makes these game-winning plays that other players don't make. That's kind of the nature of his playstyle.
I'll be honest though, I'm not a man who tilts very quickly, but if they start neuroparasiting my Archon, and Archon deals a devastating amount of a bunch of Tempest that are fungal as well, I think it'd be a little tilting. I'd be losing a couple hairs.
Yeah, it definitely could get a little frustrating there. It's always kind of fascinating because for those who don't know, herO has one of the most unique control grouping systems in the game. Most players, they have very set organized groups, spellcasters on this goes on that. For herO, he only control groups the most recent units that he was looking at. And it is a very chaotic situation, makes him very good at adapting on the fly, and definitely has a different game flow to it. Well, he's going to need to tap into that game flow, tap into that deep well of experience right now, because he needs to win this game and the next up against an absolute monster. In the bottom left side of Amphion, in the red, it's Weibo Gaming's herO.
I'm really curious to see if we'll see another Stargate and once more that Void Ray opening with perhaps a different follow-up again against this man in the top left side of Amphion, winning 2 games in a row here in this second to last best of 5 of the day. The winner of this series will move on to play a mega important match against Maru. This is Basilisk Serral.
Serral goes for the 15-15 there, does allow himself to get the hatchery down nice and early, and herO's early probe across the map is unable to block his base. That's a pretty good start for Serral, but in of itself, it does mean that his build order is going to be quite different. Spawning pool already a little bit delayed there, and adding more drones behind it. The probe, harassment, quite annoying. You can see herO just trying to occupy the mineral patches to force Serral off the mining, but Serral's counter micro is on point, hasn't lost more than a few minerals.
This is perhaps more important on this map than on any other map, since Amphion is the only map where there are a few mineral patches that are just a bit further away than they should be, and a lot of pro gamers, like, you have to be proper good at StarCraft and your timings need to be mega tight to notice it. But on this map you do tend to mine a little bit less than you do on every other map out there. So if you then also have to worry about a probe that's occupying your mineral patches, as of course only one worker at a time can mine, that starts adding up even more, and you may not have those resources to drop the Spore Crawler in time to deal with the first Oracle.
Yeah, already a few seconds behind. The builds are naturally on this map by the 2-minute mark. You're about 3-4 seconds behind. Nexus Sniper Core coming in for herO. And this map, I think its main strength as a Protoss is Oracle attack angles, because there is so much dead space around the main bases. There is just so many angles you can choose to hit from. Because of that, I'd love to see herO mix it up and actually go for an Oracle first. I know the Void Ray, the scouting denial's been a big part of his game plan, but I don't know, the Oracle's just so powerful here.
How would you have felt about a Twilight Council opening though? As Serral's obviously opening up gasless, herO is aware of it, he has seen no early extractables taken. If there was ever a moment to maybe play Twilight, I feel like this is also a pretty good map for it. There are many different ways that adepts can find themselves to the other side of the map. Even if Serral decides to go for a bit of a wall off here, herO can also mine out the minerals on his side of the map. And if adepts can very early get on top of the third base of Serral, it'd be very, very difficult for Serral to deal with that.
What I don't like about this opening for herO is that he doesn't chrono the Adepts out. Like, I definitely think something to be aggressive, even if you're not going for the Glaives, the Twilight Council like you mentioned, just getting over there with 2 Adepts early to punish the fact that there's no Ling speed and force a bit of a response, at least slowing down the creep tumors. But herO, similar to in Game 1 in their previous series earlier on, is not pressuring at all. And that means Serral's creep will get out, he's going to be able to just drone up unperturbed, and he's thinking about proxying on the other side of the map.
Yeah, I do like that, because that still screams aggression, just a different kind of aggression that you and I had in mind. But herO is doing everything for a reason. He's one of the very best Protoss players in the history of this game. So I'm starting to like that a little bit more. It's just a couple of gateways for now without a Twilight Council. As we are going to take a little look at the hands of Serral. Now Serral see that first Oracle coming in. He absolutely does. First Queen's moving to the bottom side of the main base. herO goes in deep, activates Pulsar Beam, grabs a couple of drones. Does take a lot of damage on this Oracle.
That Oracle has to be careful now. Has to regenerate its shields and come in a little bit later. We'll see how it goes. Third Nexus does go down. It's a little bit delayed with the 3 gateways coming up. Extra Oracles are pounding out. Ling speed started up for Serral now, but it's a very late Ling speed. And as that warp gate kicks in, those units potentially will start warping on the right side, and that could cause him some issues. Oracle waiting there for what he expects to be a drone popping out of this egg, but in fact it's Zerglings. Still, any damage is damage. Gets rid of the Overlord egg as well, though there is a full mineral refund. At least this is removing part of the production capabilities of Serral.
Serral working on that Oracle that is now hiding behind the natural. Queen's obviously keeping an eye on it. Overlord spread really helping out. Serral probably very happy that for the first time he does not have to worry about a Void Ray. He can safely spread those Overlords and he can start working with the vision that he is used to. Triple Oracle, once in a blue moon. herO will continue building Oracles, right? He's going to be in your face with a lot of units, and it doesn't really matter what he cranks out of these gateway units. He is the kind of guy that can absolutely build Oracle number 4 and 5. Does not seem like he is planning on that for now, and Serral really needs to start finding this proxy setup. The first adepts will reveal themselves. This is going to be difficult. The wall-off is not here yet, Pig.
Ling speed's kicking in at the perfect moment, though. It will help him defend, but he's got so few Zerglings to get started with. Queen's going to body block. Beautiful movement. Those Queens blocking the Adepts from moving closer, and they've got to back away. Now, to be fair, is herO actually going to commit here? Yes, he is. Oracle's joining up in the main as well. The drones are in jeopardy. Serral has so few units.
Yeah, Serral went all the way up to 60-something drones. And that is just crazy without Zergling speed, without a Roach Warren. herO is going to find an opening. Cancels the shade, so he's going to get a whole bunch of additional drones here. And he's obviously not done yet because the real Adept Swarm is coming. The Resonating Glaives is very close to finishing up. herO is not done yet. He's going to stick around here for days. Serral is in a bit of trouble. These Adepts will get recalled, but it's so important for Serral to figure out that it's not over yet. Glaives is about to finish up, and herO could very well show up with even way more Adepts, and Serral goes back into droning, Pig.
Oh, he finds the gateways now, and he realizes his folly. Those last 6 drones, he wishes he did not build those. He thought it was over, but round 2 is coming in. Evo Chamber wall off. It's a good idea for Serral. Will he get up in time? He will buy himself a few seconds, but of course the Adepts can just click on that. herO, he's not paying attention though, and that does buy a lot of time. Those Adepts could have one-shot it, but now it's going to take them a few seconds to work through. Roaches on the way. Serral buying himself valuable seconds.
Yep, every second matters for Serral as that Evolution Chamber will fall, but now a couple of Roaches are out. Those Roaches were not supposed to be here yet. herO lets the Shade finish up regardless as he believes in the power of Resonating Glaive Adepts. I mean, Roaches are definitely doing okay. There's a few more Adepts showing up in the third, in the natural. They're everywhere, and don't forget about those Oracles. So far though, Serral's doing a very impressive job in limiting the damage, but herO ain't done yet.
Those Adepts getting great damage. He's up to Blink and he's on 3 base saturation behind it. +1 on the way. This is not an all-in. Yes, it's doing massive damage, but he doesn't need to finish Serral off. Now, don't get me wrong, Serral has a 4th base. He's got a lot of Roaches coming. herO could have got more damage. If it wasn't for that clutch wall off, Serral would probably be in the ground right now. He may have had to tap, but he's hanging on for dear life. He's keeping the supply relatively even. Yes, his economy is fragile, but he's on 5 hatchery right now. Stalker's coming in. herO wants that finishing blow.
And don't forget that the Roach one is very exposed, and that is obviously going to be very problematic because Serral would love to get a few more Roaches. He's going to at least get a Ravager or 2. Adepts are all over the 3rd base. Still not too many drones dying, but a Protoss being up 10 workers in an 8-minute game is obviously always a fantastic scenario where Serral had a great time in game 3 because he got ahead. It kind of feels that herO is having a fantastic time right now, but Serral is still a 4-base Zerg, and if you have, well, actually 5 bases, right? There are just hatcheries everywhere, but we don't have that many drones, and above all, we don't have that many units.
But if he crushes this set of Stalkers, he will be able to regain control and get back in the lead. herO's taking a 4th base. His +1 weapons is on the way. He's only 3 more gateways and a robo. herO is continuing to macro behind this. herO is very consciously not going all in. He is throwing chaos at Serral. He is saying, deal with all of these different problems, but guess what? It's not all in. You don't have to just defend this, you need to build your economy at the same time. Serral somehow finding a way to squeeze in drones, but honestly, he is in a very difficult position. herO is now going to rotate to go for that 4.
Defending that base at 9 o'clock is going to be so difficult because herO can just spam stasis traps for days here on the high ground. Stalkers can blink back to the high ground. This is not a fight that any Zerg ever wants to take, but Serral kind of has to take it because he does not want to be a 3-base Zerg. That's why he just goes for it, but he knows he cannot win. herO sends us to Game 5. What a series. After these crazy TVTs, Piggy, we now have Serral and herO going all the way to Game 5.
Interesting to see herO looking a little bit frustrated there. A shake of the head, and Serral also looking sternly, no doubt, at that computer screen, saying, what the heck just happened? What was that build order? Triple Oracle with a proxy third gateway into delayed glaives? That's not a build you get a lot of practice against. Of course it's not. It's herO, and he's back at his element on Amphion, doing a special tactics build order, something that Serral did not expect, did not anticipate, and was caught a bit flat-footed, even with that emergency evolution chamber wall-off, turning what should have been probably an instant win, I think, for herO into a closer position. herO still just kind of said, I can keep macroing and split these adepts into 3 bases at once, and that was just too hard to deal with.
I love that move, by the way, cancelling that shade when he had the adepts in such a sweet spot in the main. There were no Zerg units attacking those adepts at the moment. Every now and then you see Protoss players, they just keep on shading, and it's like, no, don't shade right now. They're waiting for you at your next destination, but this is right here is the place you have to be. herO was aware of it, did such a good job cancelling that shade, found the damage, and Serral obviously just a little bit too greedy. Once more, we are going into Game 5. The winner of this series will move on to play against myRO. The second place finisher of Group A is going to duke it out with the second place finisher of Group B. The winner of that series goes into the Final 4. The loser has to start all the way in knockout bracket round 2. And that means you have to win 3 more series to even get close to that Final 4.
I mean, that is obviously such a hard road. It's your third life, and your third life is much harder than your first or second life. You know, if you make it through straight away or here in that second chance, you know, it is definitely going to be way more effective. It's going to give you a much better chance, and of course having the prize of playing against myRO for that final spot that is going through, or I should say the third spot into the top 4. It's a very, very, very good reward for whoever wins this match and potentially can take down myRO in the next.
I do think we can say no matter what happens here in Game 5, what a day this has been for herO, man. That 3-1 victory over Cure, incredibly impressive. We always rave about Cure. That is amazing. That is the first time I've seen the dancing Zealot this weekend. I love it. A 3-1 over Cure, a 3-0 over Raynor, and now pushing Serral to Game 5. That is the first time the herO's ever done that. Up to this point, they played 10 maps against each other at offline events. Score was 9-1. herO has already done better in this best of 5 than he did in all those other series combined. So I think it's safe to say no matter what happens in Game 5, what a day it's been for this man. And it's hard not to root for him, but obviously Serral was so amazing. He's the GOAT. He has given us so many beautiful moments as well. I think we will win as StarCraft fans, but one of them could potentially still, at least one of them is going to end up very sad, but it could potentially be both, as myRO is obviously looking at this series. What do you think myRO is hoping for?
I mean, I think if you look at the records, myRO has to be hoping for herO, but you know what? herO sometimes has his number as well. They're both fantastic matches. I mean, there are a couple of matches, a couple of main events that you give me a myRO herO, you give me a myRO Serral. Either of those I'm excited for. I think for a lot of people, we want to find out if myRO, of course, has recovered and got new tactics to deal with Serral, as the last few times he ran into him, he couldn't handle him. No doubt, he's prepared. Everyone's prepared for their versus Serral matchup. You can already see it in this tournament. Serral has had a target going a target on his back going into this event, and this man down here has absolutely prepared for it. It's going to be decided on site, Delta, and in the bottom right side of the map, coming back from a bathroom break with focus in his eyes, determination in his hands. In the bottom right side for Weibo Gaming, it is herO.
Absolutely stunning PVZs coming out of that man, not just today, but of course yesterday. A 3-0 victory over Solar as well really goes to show how hard he has worked on this matchup. In the top left side, hailing from Finland, representing Basilisk, we are looking at the main base of Serral. It is his first series of the day. Meanwhile, herO has already played 2 entire best of 5s. This is the 3rd one. So Serral definitely the fresher player when it comes to energy, but a lot of these gamers, they can really go for days. There's so much adrenaline going through their body when they're playing these high stakes matches. So obviously, I think herO's okay. He might crash later on, but I think for now, he's absolutely feeling it. And it's got to give him wings, right, to do this well against Serral, to be this competitive. And let's not forget about that game on Crimson Court. That really did look pretty damn promising too.
Yes. This definitely could have maybe been a 3-1 for herO. You know what? That's StarCraft. That is the waves that you ride, the highs and the lows. And herO, I love watching him always on that camera because he's one of the more frantic and nervous-looking players. And if you're not familiar with herO, you might think, oh, he looks a bit shook. There's no way he could play stable. This is kind of how herO plays big matches. He always looks a little nervous. You can see his hands moving a little frantically. That's just his natural state. It's similar, you know, him and Beyond kind of share that. Beyond, I think, maybe, though, a little bit more, I guess, emotional in the ups and downs, whereas herO, it feels like he just kind of is confident no matter what, and he's always smiling as things go wrong for him. You'll see him shake his head with a bit of a laugh and a grin when things go terribly bad. And now he's going to chrono Adepts again, looking to put on a little bit more pressure in the final game.
Yep, Serral obviously opening up with an extractor this time. He has mined the right amount of gas. We're going to fire up Zergling speed immediately. First Overlord on the other side of the map. We are going Stargate once more. 5 games in a row it is a Stargate, but the follow-ups have been different in each and every single game. And Serral's going to do his best to figure out what it is. You think herO's going to go back to that Void Ray into something that no one will see coming?
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we see Void Ray again. Oracle's a great option as well out of the Stargate, of course. And the Adepts coming in looking for damage. Now, remember, herO skipped the scout this game, so he's at a very efficient opening. Part of why he needs to chrono boost these Adepts is not only to, you know, get some damage, but it's also to scout. What are you doing, Serral? And he saw the drone sneak out to the 3rd. He sees drones coming out on the expansion. And he's going to force 6 more Zerglings. So Serral has to build 10 Zerglings just to respect these early Adepts. And it's kind of like a bit of tit for tat. You give up a few probes, could be chrono boosted. You force Serral to build more Lings.
Well, Serral actually did pull all the drones there. So a tiny victory for herO, where he's probably like, ha, got you. A little bit of lost mining time. These are the moments that feel good. The Adepts are still healthy. Now they are going to start battling the Queen. That is a shade that you will let finish up as we're looking. That's actually not the best spot to put your Adepts in. I think herO realized that. Instead, he's going to do it elsewhere. He is just going to keep on threatening that shade into the natural. Serral has enough Zerglings. The Zergling speed is done. Could go for it. Queen from the high ground could help out a little bit as well.
Oh, what a detail for Serral, realizing if he walks that Queen over in between injects, he can get a few hits on the Adept. But it is time for them to withdraw and try to get home. But wait, no, the Oracle's there to guard them. They don't need to go home. Lings are out, but already a 3rd base on the way for herO. Serral just building Queens and Lings and drones. Both sides macroing up neck in the workers. Neither side able to separate themselves just yet.
herO has tried to go for it a couple of times and perhaps just scouting, but it's always like, if I can get myself in that perfect spot, I'll let the shade finish up. At this point so far, herO playing very, very cautious, doing a good job and keeping creep at bay as he snipes one of these active creep tumors early on. That is big. Now it's double Oracle. No drone damage yet, a little bit of indirect damage here and there. herO definitely just trying to be a nuisance, hoping that he can force Serral into a mistake. But making mistakes is not something that Serral does a whole lot of. There goes the first drone, so herO is starting to finally find some damage. Grabs the second one as well, as one of those axes just turned into a drone.
Oh, this was great pressure here from herO. 4 drones goes down. I mean, Serral already delayed saturating that base. Another 2 go down. 6 workers. herO so patient. I love that he didn't overcommit. He baited the Queens out, and only when the Queens moved out to the 3rd did he go in for damage. A great start for herO, but he is still down in workers. A testament to how good Serral's macro is.
Yep, Serral obviously, besides those Lings that he built in the early game, has built nothing but drones and Queens for a little while. But I do love it, right? It's a different kind of herO. herO in the past always just YOLOs that first Oracle and takes a lot of damage. And we have seen some trademark vintage herO games. I think of Game 4 earlier today against Cure. This is a very different herO. He waited, he waited, he waited, and in the end he did find the damage he was looking for. As we have a bunch of Adepts without Resonating Glaive, of course, it's shading to the other side of the map. Let's the shade finish up. There are some Zerglings waiting for it, though.
Not too many Zerglings, though. So the Adepts did commit to the Shade decently. Most players want to get out right now. The Oracles try to get by, looking for those workers in the main base. He's going to go for the Stasis Trap on the right side. Second Stasis Trap tries to go down. The Lings do take out that one. A few drones get frozen. But overall, great defense for Serral. I mean, 2 drones getting frozen, maybe 1 or 2 Lings going down. The 4th base got down in the midst of that. That could have easily been cancelled if herO just chose to deny the 4th.
It could have been cancelled by Oracles, by Adepts, by a lot of things. We could have perhaps even sniped that drone before it became a hatchery. It started off so promising for herO, who was so patient. That second wave of the attack, though, really not going his way. Serral is going to be incredibly pleased with that, as we've got a very quick infestation pit going down. All things considered, with the amount of pressure that herO has put on Serral here, I am shocked with how quick this infestation pit is.
I mean, Serral's greed has to be admired. He went for a Roach run at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. His first Roach is only coming out now. That is a level of confidence in your scouting, your knowledge of what your opponent's doing in the game. Many players would not risk that in Game 5. They would have opted for more safety earlier. But Serral finds himself in a really competitive position, and even an advantage, many would say, because he pushed that edge as hard as he could. That being said, herO is not ready to put down the aggression just yet. A second Forge on the way, as well as going up to the gateways, but the Stalkers are already on the front with +1. They're going to be blinking back. The Lings protected by the Stasis Trap there are the Stalkers. And, ooh, Queen's going to start to go down. Hydroden and Hive starting up. Serral, though, he's got only a 4-worker advantage, and herO will start a 4th Nexus.
Serral plays this game with so much confidence, right? He doesn't have any creep to work with here. There's a bunch of Stalkers in his face. Zerglings get stuck in his stasis, and Serral says, yeah, Hive. And a few more drones. That's honestly nuts, because this is herO. We know how aggressive he can be. Even though he has perhaps dialed it back a tiny bit throughout this tournament, he is still aggressive in all the right moments. We saw already earlier today. We saw that yesterday. At this point, it seems like Serral is going to get away with it for now. I think it's been a little while since herO truly got in the main base. Serral does have some good scouting in the bottom side of the map as he sees the timing of this 4th base. 13 more drones. Lurker then going down as well. Serral is playing a very dangerous game here.
Indeed, but I think he realizes the mode hero's been playing is get in your face and then macro really hard. herO hasn't really had as much lethal intention as he normally does in this series, and Serral is being very greedy to try and take advantage of it. So far, it's working out for well for him. Robo, Storm, double upgrades, all this stuff's coming up for herO. This is going to push to the late game. I don't see a kill timing for either side. It really feels like we are once again going to see who's the best in the macro game.
Yep, it almost feels that herO was bluffing a little bit, even though there is still there is potential in this many Stalkers on the edge of creep. If herO would have been able to take out that 4th hatchery, that would have been massive. But herO was perhaps bluffing him with his aggression a tiny bit, and Serral just called the bluff, was willing to drone up, was willing to fire up that Hive, and now we've got 5 Lurkers on the production tab. Seismic Spines on the way, +2 missile attacks already as well. Still very, very little creep to work with over here, though, and that's going to be a bit uncomfortable, but the fact that the first Lurkers are out are going to make Serral feel a lot safer, knowing that a forward blink is probably off the menu.
Storm's about to finish, but yeah, I think he just morphed all his High Templar into Archons. herO's saying, screw Storm. Okay, he does have a bunch of High Templar there on the right side. 3 Storms, 2 Archons, a few Zealots, but the Lurkers are ready. Serral has the numbers. You got to be careful committing into this. As herO, there's units on every side.
It all comes down to this. It could be a very long game, but it can also be over if one of these 2 players is able to win a very decisive fight, because at this point the piggy banks are tiny. The winner of this best of 5 moves on to duke it out with Maru in an all-important best of 5 for a direct ticket straight into the final 4. herO's here with all his Stalkers, a couple of Zealots looking for a cancel on the hatchery, and he does get it, but he's going to have to respect these Lurkers that now have their range upgrade, and Adoptive Talents is more than halfway done, so we're still a little way off of Lurker's speed, but it's not going to take forever.
The Fleet Beacon goes down. I was going to say we need a 2nd and 3rd Robo. 2nd Robo finally drops here. Remember, not having Immortals is weak against 2 things. Lots of Lurkers or lots of Ultras. Those armored units, you need a big core of Immortals to be able to fight that on the ground. The Immortal count now growing is huge, and remember, herO's upgrades are fantastic. He's got 3-2 on the way. Serral is going to be way behind on those upgrades.
Upgrades are indeed incredibly important, but I feel like Lurkers sometimes don't really care. Like, the only unit that really cares about having great upgrade against Lurkers are those Immortals. Zealots, Stalkers, Archons, even if the upgrades favor the Protoss, they won't make the difference against a very high Lurker count, as we've got a Nidus network potentially going up in the main base. I don't know if herO has seen it yet. He is not reacting, Piggy.
I don't even know if Serral has anything in the Nidus. If he does, though, this could be a disaster, but he spots it. Zealot warp in. The Nidus pops out a single queen to transfuse it, but she does get taken out, as does the Nidus Worm. Great defense by herO as he dives forward on the 5th. herO with a split push. I love the split push. It's such a good way to use your mobility, but Serral's got a link counter. He's going to deny the 5th base of herO at the same time. Base for base. This is a really good example of the map control of herO, but also how Serral still finds his way around behind.
It is so incredibly tense right now between these two, as Serral looks at the Stalker army and says, I believe I can battle a couple of Stalkers. There is a mothership on the way as well. There was even a Phoenix. One of these Immortals gets surrounded by just Zerglings. That is a big catch, because we have been talking about the Immortal throughout the entire best of 5. It is such a pivotal unit for Protoss in the late game, as Serral finds a few more and a High Templar as well. These are the most important Zerglings that Serral has built throughout this tournament. Amazing pickups.
And Nidus has just gone up on the other side of the map as well, but herO's being so aggressive, he forces some units at home. The Nidus is outside his natural, though. Serral ready to mount a counter-offensive. Lurkers, not the best Lurker siege. I'd love to see him get on top of a base, but it does cause a distraction and a problem for herO to deal with. Warping and Stalkers will not deal with that. The Oracle's coming back, and the Mothership, though, could be fantastic. No Overseer on that position, which means with Cloak, Mothership and Stalkers can take it out.
Yes, but Lurkers can still attack Stalkers, even if there are a couple of support units. I don't think this is the best defense so far by herO. It's a little bit hectic, it's a little bit chaotic, and that is because herO is focused on this fight on the other side of the map, but there are Lurkers here, there, and everywhere.
He's attacking in the north as well. He just cancelled the 5th again while sniping the 4th base, but Serral comes in for revenge. He says, you can take my bases, but it comes at a cost, and I don't think it's a cost you're willing to pay. herO never cleaned up the Lurkers. Did his Mothership go down to Queens? I think it did, Rotterdam. Serral building a random Mutalisk and Swarmos right now just to say, yeah, I can build one of everything, mate. Tempest and Mothership trying to rebuild, but I cannot believe herO. He suffered so many losses to those Lurkers, and it was just multitasking overwhelm. Serral said, I'm going to defend here on the left, in the right, and hit you with a Nidus Worm at the same time with a Queen Lurker combo. What a great Nidus Worm for Serral. He has traded 5,000 resources more efficiently and finds himself with a 50 supply lead. herO tried to smother Serral. Serral takes the pillow off him and holds it over his face in turn.
herO indeed tried to make this very, very chaotic, but Serral read him like a book in the end, and not dealing with those initial Lurkers, the initial Nidus. That was omega painful. Those Lurkers just continued to be there. herO was not able to cancel that Nexus over here in the center of the map either. That's 400 minerals more down the drain. And at this point, herO just hopes that Serral, just like on Alcyone, is gonna give him some time. But I have the feeling that Serral knows exactly where herO is at, and that Serral will continue to be aggressive.
herO has to lick his wounds. The random Swarmos lets his presence be known. Says, let's go to Locusts! And the cannons do blast them down. That was, of course, a hotkey misclick, the single Mutalisk. And Swarmos, as the Lurkers get caught on the map. They burrow, though. Serral's got quick eyes paying attention. Tempest slowly clearing this up. herO's going to be able to remax. Remember, we saw herO hang in and remax in the previous games. Serral, though, not willing to give him time. He's going to bust the cannons on the southern base.
How much detection is there left for herO? We had a couple of cannons here, but these cannons will fall against the Roaches, Hydras, and Lurkers. We see 2 observers in the mix, no more Oracles though, and it's incredibly hard to always keep your observers alive. It seems that herO says the best defense is offense as he rallies everything to the other side of the map, but Serral got Nidus networks to work with, so it's incredibly easy for Serral to bring all those units back home.
Still got to be careful. Lurkers are a sort of siege army. There are 5 Immortals up, maybe not as many as he could have had. There's 3 Immortals and the High Templar going down to the Zergling counterattack was such a crucial moment in this game. I really feel like that's where Serral first started to gain ground. Another massive Lurker counterattack! 9 Lurkers on the other side, still sieging the base in the south at the same time. Serral with an intense look on his face, doing everything at once so well. Yes, the Lurkers will get cornered. Yeah, that's pretty nice. herO's first big win for a while. He's actually kept his probes alive as well. He's retaking a 4th in the north. His income is just so far below Serral's, but definitely gets him back in the units lost column. a little closer to even. Remember, he was down 5,000 in the units lost before. He's closed that gap to 2.5.
And we can't ignore the fact that he does have a bunch of Immortals now. We've been talking about Immortals throughout this game, throughout the entire best of 5. And with Immortals, you are allowed to dream. We've got Psystorm on the side of herO. That was big. And even if Serral's been mining a bit more, Serral is not sitting on a crazy amount of gas. And just Zerglings are not going to win this game. So that was a massive victory for herO on the right side, who looked pretty much down and out earlier. And he's showing us that there is always another life for him, as Serral is going to try to send a few Zerglings on top of that 3 o'clock base. herO's got different ideas of defending. He just wants to attack over here on the left side.
Oh, you said Lings weren't going to do everything, but I don't know, Roddy. Those Ling counterattacks have been fantastic. The Zealot Warpin will start to defend those. Remember, fantastic ground upgrade. So anytime it's Zealot versus Zergling, the Zealots will be crushing those battles due to the upgrade difference, especially if you've got any Archons in there for support. herO needs to defend these bases. He takes the middle one on the left side. Nice Archon Storm combo, getting a few Corruptors and Queens.
herO's army is looking so good right now. It's so much bigger than it was a while ago, and it's so much better against what Serral's working with. Now, Lurkers are powerful, and it really comes down to execution. We have seen these battles go either way. They can go in favor of the Zerg, they can go in favor of the Protoss as well. It is so impressive that herO, despite all those losses here, there, everywhere, is always still able to create these terrifying armies.
Shout out to our Observer team for catching as much as they are. There is so much going on right now as herO recalls to the north of the map. And oh, he doesn't quite click the hatchery. I would have loved to see him click on that and finish it off. A few nice storms on the Hydras. The hatchery goes down. The Lurkers are wounded. Serral abandons the position. Now, Serral did snipe a base that was building at the same time in the bottom middle, and that one was not cancelled. So Serral's still finding damage with his Zerglings, but his own economy is massively hurt.
That would have been big as well, sniping a couple of these High Templars. Shield Battery cannot heal up units until the warp-in is done. In the end, Serral grabs one of them, 150 gas down the drain. I mean, the game is just wide open because of how chaotic it's been. They've both been in each other's face non-stop. herO now has taken the supply lead, and the man has a terrifying army. +3 attack, +3 armor, a lot of Archons, a lot of Immortals. Serral also getting his hands on +3 melee. What a game pick.
herO has made massive sacrifices this game to get rid of Serral's creep spread and keep his base count low. And you can see it paying off now. Lurkers get in, they get some damage, but the Oracle comes back. There's one Lurker that he left on the right side. As the Observers come in, I think they might barely get vision. He should be able to shut that down. Good evacuation with the Lurkers, though. Those Nidus worms being used by Serral very well. But I really feel like Serral's lacking control on his side of the map. The Nidus harass is cute, but look at his vision and look at his map control. He just doesn't have creep spread. herO being in his face from start to finish has removed one of the big advantages of Zerg, and Serral specifically, which is creep covering the map, connecting your bases, and the wide spread of the bases on site delta is being used against Serral. herO is using his mobility so well.
Yep, Broodlords are not what they used to be, but they are pretty damn good against Zealots, Archons, High Templars, and Immortals. The only problem for Serral is there are still a couple of Tempest, and I believe that Fleet Beacon is still alive and kicking. We still have Stargates at home as well, so there is absolutely a way that for herO to deal with those Broodlords. This doesn't have to be game-ending, as herO at this point says, you know what, let's slow this game down a tiny bit. I'm a maxed out Protoss, I've got a terrifying army, I'm gonna take some bases, as you've got very limited creep spread, like you just mentioned, Pick. This game is just nuts, man. What a day of video games coming out of herO here in Game 5.
You tricky boy, Serral. He's been blocking these two bases for the last minute and a half. Serral just being so annoying. Even there, keeping that drone alive after the Zealots cancel the hatchery. Serral's attention to detail. I think it was you yesterday. We were talking about Serral. You said he's just so good at putting out fires. And I think that absolutely is such a good way to describe Serral. Is there's these little things going on. He's just handling them very cleanly, very precisely. But herO is still in his face.
What's the Lurker count? How many spellcasters does Serral have? I'd love to take a little look at the army composition. Still have that random middle list, by the way. 16 Lurkers, 3 Infestors, and a single Viper. That single Viper could actually be incredibly useful. Can maybe abduct the mothership. It would be very difficult otherwise to take it out. 9 Corruptors is okay-ish to deal with a couple of Tempests. It's okay to kill a mothership that you abduct. It's not enough to fly into the Protoss army.
Ooh, Abduct's coming in. One Tempest does going to go down there to the Corruptors. The Storms, though, starting to damage those Corruptors. Broodlords getting the base cancel. Lovely move for Serral. And also a great choice to back off as herO. You don't want to stand there fighting to the Spellcaster Broodlord siege. He cancels the base in the north for about the 7th time in this game. herO never letting that northern base go up.
Neuroparasite is done, and that's something to absolutely keep an eye on, because we've got 4 infestors, and we have seen Zerg players land a couple of devastating Neuros in the late game on the Protoss ground army too. We already saw one Archon being neuroed. Obviously at that point it was looking incredibly good, but infestors really can make the difference in a mega close battle.
Got a model up north, got to watch out. Fungal's there. The Corruptors and the Fungal are there. Oh gosh, he's caught out. herO was not expecting the army to rotate so quickly. Storms keep the Corruptors back, but the Broodlords are all over him. I think he's got a recall out of here to save some of those units, but Serral does not want to get baited into the open. He's not sure where the rest of the army is, and Serral cautiously backs away. Corruptor Viper coming forward. Tempest in the open. Great catches here. Wow, he gets one, almost gets a second one as well. But good moves by herO to limit his losses. He's got 8 Immortals on the ground. Those units aren't too useful in the current composition. Like, yeah, if they get on top of the Lurkers, it's great. But Serral is specifically avoiding that situation because he realizes, hey, I got to let my Broodlords do the heavy lifting. If I get rid of the Immortal count, then I can maybe start pushing with Lurkers.
Yep, but Serral obviously is not rich enough to just get rid of all the Lurkers at once and start building different units. I mean, it's always funny how Lurkers versus Protoss work. When it comes to Protoss running into Lurkers, Lurkers can look fantastic. They can be devastating and they can absolutely obliterate everything the Protoss has on the ground. But if the Lurkers have to move into the Protoss, that's only where the Lurkers can look incredibly underwhelming, and Immortals will truly live up to their name and be immortal.
Still attacking that northern base is herO. He just won't let up on it. Serral's down here with the Lurkers as well. Dark Shrine will go down. And those Lurkers backing away. Shield upgrades, level 3, +2 air weapons coming in for herO. Important to add those upgrades the longer this goes. herO has not been mining, you know, vast amounts of resources for a long time, but neither is Serral. They've both been on relatively kind of mid-game styled economies. You can see Serral largely having the income advantage over the last 10 minutes, but the start and the finish there was in herO's favor of that last 10-minute period.
I'm just smiling from ear to ear, Piggy. What a day of video games this has been. And to see a Game 5 like this between Serral and herO that's so close, so competitive is fantastic. As a couple of the High Templars do land some feedbacks, drop a couple of storms. I see Lurkers are getting obliterated. That Lurker count was dropping real quick. Both players are very low on supply.
There's Lurkers in 2 of herO's bases, picking off so many probes. herO's so busy attacking that he hasn't noticed. He's not pulling those away. His army's getting jumped on at the same time, though. Neuroparasite is massive. You were asking for a Rotterdam, and Serral has answered, stealing the Tempest and the Archons and turning them on their friends. Oh, that is a nasty set of Zerg recruitment orders, taking up herO's army and turning them on himself. The Lurker harass distracts herO, and in the midst of that distraction, Serral pounces. But herO's not done yet. He dives in the base in the north, takes out the hatchery. He needs to move north and take out another hatchery as well, because Serral just took amazing trades.
Yep, for the second time, Serral takes a great fight, but herO also finds economic damage, and herO still has an army. And it'd be incredibly foolish of us to now count him out, because he has shown us that he can recover from these moments as he is switching into some late game Void Rays with Flux Veins. I mean, no Ravages to worry about this time around. In a weird way, that could be a brilliant play if Serral does not see it. Yes, there are a couple of Corruptors, but if you can surprise him with a couple of Storms and like 8 Void Rays with +2 air weapons and Flux Veins, this is crazy enough that it just might work.
It's a genius idea, Rotterdam. The problem is you need to hide it and reveal it all at once. And we know that herO loves that select all army button. It is the main way he controls his force. Those Void Rays rallying straight to the middle have already been spotted by Changelings. So this will not be a secret. Serral will have time to prepare, and he's already got 7 Infestors, 1 Viper, as well as a bunch of Queens. Not a lot of creep for him, though. He's off creep right now. Those Queens are a bit exposed. Serral needs to reconnect his bases.
I really wish that herO would have waited a little bit revealing those Void Rays, right? Why reveal 1, 2, 3 Voids at a time with Flux Veins? Because now Serral is going to look at that. He's going to build more Corruptors, and he can obviously build a second Viper. I think only 1 Viper is risky. Serral probably still feels pretty safe on the ground, as there are 15 Lurkers protecting this base in the top side. He's got some Fungals to work with as well. Serral has been dominating the big army engagements, but herO has done a better job in expanding and making sure that he's got a lot of resources to work with. So once more, herO is going to be able to recover from losing a battle as he is getting closer and closer to being a maxed out Protoss.
The big thing which I think is hurting herO right now is never cleaning up that creep in the bottom where the Nidus worm was. I feel like if he just got some Zealots and an Observer down in his south, cleared that up, he'd have a new base to expand to, and he'd be able to more effectively pressure Serral in the bottom left. His inability to do that is where Serral's really got his economic foothold, is that bottom left side of the map, and that's where I'd love to see herO strike next. He's going to push the north, but this is incredibly well defended. Good feedback storm combo on the Queens. The Lurkers are there. The Immortals cannot break that position. The Tempest can slow siege it, but look at that. He snipes the Observer and pulls back. Great move for Serral.
Yep, Serral has a bunch of Queens here as well, so he can drop a Transfuse on the Lurkers if he has to. It really is that age-old rule. Immortals have a hard time running on top of Lurkers. Lurkers have an incredibly difficult time running on top of Immortals. So defender's advantage is more real than ever when you've got these kinds of armies looking at each other. As herO says, you know what, a few more Tempest than perhaps, still trying to make the game chaotic with Zealots here, there and everywhere. But it's starting to look like Serral is starting to have more and more control over this game. And these are the games that Serral loves to play. Serral doesn't want to play these hectic games with no money in the bank at all and 17 different fights. Can he do it? Oh, absolutely. Is that what he's looking for? No, because Serral believes in his ability to control the late game Zerg army to perfection.
Serral's looking for an ambush in the north. At the same time, hero's looking to recall to the south. He's got to watch out for the Neuroparasite. He recalls, though. He recalls before Serral can pull off the ambush, and he finds the bottom left side of the map. A brilliant move for herO. He's going to get 2 hatcheries. The drones are burrowing and running away. Good job by Serral, trying to save what resources he can. Observer's getting picked off by the spores. Nice move there for Serral. He can't really counterattack, though, because Serral's army's too slow. He can't be moving too far away, because if he gets recalled on top of, he could get picked apart by Tempests.
Phenomenal mothership plays coming out of herO. I'm surprised that Serral didn't try to do something about some of these bases in the top right side, when you know all of the units just got recalled to the bottom left. And of course, herO could use Nexus recall as well, but I think he'd have a difficult time bringing an army of this size home. It feels like that's just a little bit too big to go for a regular recall, as the Robo is unpowered. I believe the Dark Shrine was here as well, so I assume we have lost the Dark Shrine. DT's obviously not having much of an impact. Serral now going for it. He is going to try to recall. Did herO manage to recall everything? Definitely looks like it. That is a lot of Protoss units and obviously managed to get on top of each other. Void Rays and Tempest can clump up, and herO saves the top right after taking out both bases in the bottom left.
Yeah, just removing Serral's production and map control by taking out these hatcheries is so big, and just keeping him away from that bottom left. Because right now, I mean, it's been such a long time where hero's mining more. Hero's mining so much more right now.
6 arrows. That's a lot of arrows, Big.
That is a lot of arrows. Each of those red arrows at the bottom of the screen does show the income advantage. It's monumental for herO right now, and it's really on him when and where they fight. Serral doesn't have the creep spread, which means his Lurkers, his Infestors, his Queens can't get as close to the Protoss army. They don't have that movement speed or that vision advantage. hero's got to be careful, though. Neuroparasite's still very scary, as is the Fungal. We've seen what Serral can do if you step into his territory.
And Serral has a tiny bit of a gas bank, and herO's gas bank is a lot smaller, which means that if they fight and it's close and it's competitive, there is a chance that Serral's reinforcements are going to show up in bigger numbers. Tempest are leading the charge, working their way through a couple of the Spore Crawlers. Corrupt is trying to push these Protoss units away. It's not quite working yet. That one Lurker is putting a number on the economy of herO on the top right side, but herO's got multiple bases. Serral loses another hedge. Serral's got a massive army, 158 army supply, but he's got no income anymore. He's got a bit of a piggy bank, but no income.
Indeed. Serral without income. I mean, it feels like he's on a timer. Don't get me wrong. If he turns this from a 28-minute game to an hour-long game, yes, he can catch on. But that's such a long one. Fungal lands! Big Fungal, he's going for it! Serral's going to dive on top. Parasitic Bomb lands in the middle. The Void Rays getting hammered. But the Time Warp Storm combo comes down. Serral has to back away. The Void Rays take a peppering, though. Another Fungal goes down. The Mothership's going to take big damage. herO wisely disengages. Serral takes a better trade, but it isn't the game-ending one that he wanted. He wanted to catch all those Void Rays.
Yeah, well, he definitely dealt a lot of damage to that army. That's something that's incredibly important, because sure, the shields will regenerate, but the HP will not regenerate. And that is a lot of wounded Void Rays entering that next battle. And herO's going to have a really difficult time remaking all those units. He tried to find the one Void Ray that was affected by the Parasitic Bomb, but he panicked and he brought it back into the pack. He dealt so much splash damage to himself. I actually think that was a massive moment for Serral. Not just because he won that fight, but now he makes it so much more doable to win the next fight too.
Carriers coming in now for herO as well. A few carriers is always good to have like a bit of raw damage. He's finally getting +3 air weapons as well, which was missing to this point. Doesn't have any armor upgrades for his air, so a few lacking ones. Keep in mind though, Serral was not rich this game. He's only on 2 air upgrades himself, so both sides aren't quite capped out on the upgrades. And what a scrappy war to decide this series. Remember guys, the winner of this match gets the reward of playing Maru in another match to get to the top 4 of the tournament.
Corruptors are getting close to those Void Rays. Vipers are trying to hide in the back. They obviously don't want to be one-shotted by these Tempest. The Vipers are so important for Serral right now. He doesn't want to lose them, but he knows that those are the units that have the potential to deal devastating damage once more to this Golden Armada army. We're looking for a fungal. We are looking for Parasitic Bomb, round 2.
Oh, big fungal parasitic bomb again. It's in the midst. He's got to be better at zoning with these High Templar. herO panicking under pressure and his Void Rays are getting slaughtered. Oh, there we go. Finally, a set of feedbacks goes down on those Infestors, but the Nexus of the Pylons go down. The Broodlord's picking off a few of those units as well. And that is really big. We have to keep checking on that unit's loss tab because it feels like these last few fights have shifted things, and indeed they have. Serral is back in the winning column. 7,000 resources, units lost, more efficient. Keep in mind, herO's mining way more resources. But the longer this gets drawn out, herO's bases on his side of the map are getting dry earlier. Serral has more resources to suck up on his side, so the longer this draws out, the slower it is, the better it is for Serral.
A 31-minute game 5 here between these two as another fungal lands. This time herO does find that one Void Ray that is affected by Parasitic Bomb, but he's going to lose the remaining Void Rays regardless, as the Zerg spellcasters are simply in way too many high numbers. herO does still have a mothership. Are we looking for another great tactical recall? herO the kind of guy that will actually start building cannons here just because he thinks that's awesome, and he's got some minerals to work with. It's a terrifying fleet, but can herO find the engagement that he's looking for?
There is a clear momentum shift in this matchup, Rotterdam, and it's because Serral's connected his base with creep. He's got creep to the halfway point for the first time in this map. And not only that, herO is no longer split harassing and splitting his army up. As it goes to one big army versus one big army, Serral's creep is slowly expanding around him. Wherever herO's army isn't active, Serral's spreading creep. Serral has more vision than he's ever had. herO's had the information advantage in most of the fights up to this point. That's how herO's been doing so well. As Serral gets all this vision with the creep and the Infestors and the Vipers coming forwards, you're seeing him find the spells. He's landing fungals, he's landing abducts, he's landing these parasitic bombs. And herO needs to split up and clear that creep, or just really do a good job of bullying him back. Because right now, Serral's won the last 3 or 4 fights. He's got momentum, and herO needs to get in front and start intercepting those spellcasters with High Templar.
And that's why he's building a lot of oracles right now. That's obviously not for Pulsar Beam. That is to drop revelations over and over again. The moment you've got vision of that Zerg army, you make it more doable for your High Templars to be in the right place in the right time. They've got that superior range over the Vipers. 10 range on feedback. He is looking for them, but Serral's doing such a good job and even throwing a bunch of Overseers in the mix, which makes it a little bit more difficult for the High Templar to always feedback the right target.
4 Immortals and an Oracle, a fantastic run by Force in the north. It's very good for clearing Lurkers, actually. 5 Lurkers are moving to respond, but if you Revelate this, the Immortals will smash through. Great Revelation, and look at that. Oh!
For the second time in this game, a couple of sweet Neuros coming up. Serral really getting so much value out of these Infestors. If anybody really thought that the Infestor was dead and was no longer viable in high levels EVP, well, Serral is really proving the opposite here throughout this series. Some great fungals, some great neuroparasites.
I think the High Templar in the bottom just got shot. Okay, they survived. They did survive the Lurkers. He kind of stumbled into the Lurkers, took them out. Will snipe this base. herO getting some good base snipes. But you can see that Serral's got that map control we were talking about. And I think as long as Serral gets more map vision and control like this, you're seeing him stack up really efficient engagements. The Immortals are getting thrown away, which I think at this point is not a bad idea because they aren't the most valuable unit. Mothership cloaking and diving in there. Bit of a crazy move here for herO. He looks like he wants to pick a battle, but watch out, Abduct comes in. Time Warp does drop in response on top of those Broodlords. Storms landing on top of the Broodlords and Corruptors. Massive storms all over the Zerg air army. Serral wisely backs away.
herO feels incredibly clumped up as a carrier does get abducted and is going to get picked off. A few fungals have landed. There's only a single Archon on the ground. That is really scary if you're herO because you need that splash damage. Archons are so good in keeping Corruptors at bay.
Wow, he's warping in Stalkers right now. herO the mad lad trying to just jump on top of Serral. He finds big storms all over the Zerg army. Transfuses are landing though. Fungals landing on the Interceptors as well. And Serral playing so patiently. He lands a parasitic bomb on the carriers, trying to recall half of the army, but that means the other half of the army is left in the lurch. herO is panicking.
There's still one Archon on the ground that's going to try to make the difference, but Tempest just don't do very good in these straight-up fights. The Infestors are here once more. Another Neuroparasite lands on that remaining Archon. Corruptors are doing their thing. They're not in very high numbers anymore. It is a close fight. Serral should probably stay away from Battery Overcharge for a split second, but Serral's army is still massive.
I cannot believe the efficiency. Serral's late game spellcaster usage, second to none. 10,000 resource lost advantage. The efficiency of this man is second to none. And he manages to cleanse herO's army. What an incredible Game 5 to decide probably the closest series of the entire tournament so far. Wow, Serral fighting back from the brink. He was on next to no income. 6 red arrows for the income advantage for herO for about 8 minutes straight. And Serral says, that's okay, I'll just take perfect engagements. If I need to take perfect engagements to win, I'll do it every single time.
herO still battling with a couple of Stalkers and a couple of High Templars on the top side of the map, but Serral knows that at this point the doors are wide open to just go back into Lurkers. The Lurkers are going to be fantastic. We still have a bunch of infestors sharking around as well, perhaps looking for a few more fungals, a neuroparasite perhaps, some of the High Templars to feed back the other High Templars. Lord knows. What we do know is that Serral has an 80 army supply lead. herO, his robo was unpowered early. It was picked off by those Zerglings at the triangle base, and he's now forced to rebuild it, but he doesn't really have the money anymore to be doing stuff like rebuilding rebuilding a robotics facility to build a bunch of immortals.
Long distance mining, never a good sign there. Serral's income still in the negative, even though herO's mostly long distance mining. He's still got the minerals in the top right. Just goes to show, you know, Serral's not really had a great income in this game. There's so many minerals left on his bases as well. Like even his 4th and 5th base, Serral has a ton of minerals left to mine, but those bases just got sniped so many times. And I mean, I feel like he's lost about 20 hatcheries, maybe more this game. He's cancelled at least 7 hatcheries. herO losing a Stargate. Serral's face, look at that laser focus. He will not be showing any sort of release, any sort of relaxation until he gets that GG out of his opponent.
Finds a couple of these probes that were long distance mining in the center of the map as the Stalkers will pick off that one Corruptor, but Serral knows that this is no longer about the Corruptors. All the carriers have died, all the Tempests have fallen. There are no more Void Rays to worry about. Serral will build a few more Vipers, which is a little bit surprising, right? Because this is not really the kind of army that we want Vipers against. Perhaps a Blinding Cloud if herO has a crazy forward blink with his Stalkers. But maybe, I don't know, abducting an Arkle perhaps to let the Zergling shine. As we have a few Lurkers here. They are on hold position perhaps for a split second, or they just didn't see these Stalkers yet. But herO loses a couple of units that he really cannot afford to replace.
Archon's coming forward in the north. Nice Oracle Revelation with a few Zealots, but the Broodlords come forward and scares that back. Nice. Oh, nice! Fungals! The chaining of the Fungals coming in just one at a time. Serral keeping those Infestors out of range. And those High Templar, all of them going down. The Broodlords raining down death from above. The Archons falling. That was a savage catch. You have to see Serral's usage of Infestors in this matchup, staying just out of High Templar range and landing the Fungals on the edge of their splash damage. That is next level late game micro.
And herO knows it at this point. The writing is on the wall. The man came closer than he was ever when it comes to defeating Serral at an offline event. But unfortunately for him, it seems like it is not going to be enough. herO is not done yet. herO will still have another chance in that knockout bracket that we are going to watch tomorrow, as he's still going to give it a tiny shot, but I think his posture says it all. herO knows at this point Serral's got a little too much. There are too many Zerg units out there. The Zerg units are too powerful. Fungals will keep on connecting, and Serral gets the job done and will advance into the final series of the day to duke it out with Maru. Big, we've seen some ridiculously close best of 5s today, but this one tops it all.
What a stunner. And you can see just how much